Chapter 421. Daily Life and Eating. The next day at the Purification Bureau, next to Leon's office. Emma, my dear Emma, after touching her own empty wallet, the red-haired director, known for her cunning, pulled her best friend's arm and pleaded with a wretched look, Can you lend me some more money? Not necessarily. Glancing at her expressionlessly, Emma lowered her head to keep working on her documents and said coldly, Went drinking again yesterday? Aha. Then no. Director Olivia, I haven't finished my purification report. Do you have anything else? No more. Then please go. Watching her best friend coldly pointing her hand towards the door, the red-haired director reluctantly moved toward the door, hoping to hear someone change their mind. But as fate would have it, even when the red-haired director slowly drifted into the hallway, the door with the Emma Alman nameplate firmly closed, she still didn't hear the tender call she once longed for. Heartless woman. With a sigh, the red-haired director quietly knocked on the door next door and called out sweetly, Leon, dear Leon, are you in? Come on in. At that moment, the door that just slammed shut mysteriously reopened, and Emma, filled with disdain, appeared at the entrance and pulled her into her office. Last time. Tell me, how much do you need to borrow this time? Huh? Ning. Ning. Seeing Emma's sudden change of heart, the red-haired director raised an eyebrow slightly, then smirked subtly and said meaningfully, Emma, why did you suddenly change your mind? Could it be? Do you still want to borrow or not? Yes. Seeing the increasingly hostile look in her best friend's eyes, to avoid provoking the money god, the red-haired director quickly swallowed her teasing words, then raised her right hand and gestured. Not much. Just 5 gold wheels this time. Only this much? Considering it's you, it's really not much. Somewhat surprised, Emma looked at the red-haired director, opened her wallet, counted out 5 gold wheels, and handed them over, then curiously asked, Why are you borrowing so little this time? Usually, when you ask me for money, you start with 3 or 50, right? This time, the situation is a bit special. With a look full of gloom, the red-haired director said, Yesterday, after drinking until midnight and paying, when I picked up the leftover drinks to return to the bureau, I suddenly realized I'd forgotten my wallet. When I went back, the waiter told me that someone had already taken my wallet, and he didn't remember the person's face either. So this time, I don't need to borrow much. Just enough to get by these few days until Jerry finishes his task and can get his friends to help find my wallet. So you're a Zodiac Bureau's Director of Purification, a powerful figure with a record of slaying true gods. Yet you drank so much you forgot your wallet? Are you serious? Blinking speechlessly, Emma stuffed the gold wheels into the red-haired director's hand and reminded her in annoyance. In those places you go, the drinks are very expensive, and the patrons generally aren't short on money. They usually wouldn't take others' wallets, and that waiter seems very suspicious as well. Generally speaking, in high-end bars, if a waiter notices a guest has lost a wallet, most would help store it. If they didn't notice, they'd simply say they didn't know. Even if they saw someone else take it, to avoid taking responsibility, they'd likely say they didn't know. But he specifically told you that someone had taken it without remembering the person's face, which is quite strange. Though it may not be him who took it, he probably didn't tell you the truth. After analyzing the situation, Emma suggested, How about this? Tell me the name of that place and what the waiter looks like. I'll ask Leon to swing by after work to see what's really going on. Well, once Jerry returns to the bureau, he'll be able to directly retrieve my wallet, so it's better not to trouble Leon with it. Recalling what she said to Leon when inviting him to drink yesterday, the red-haired director's face flushed slightly, and an unaccustomed feeling of shame rose in her heart. Keep in mind, when someone has a weakness known to all, you'd better be careful. Learn from this, Little Lion, you're still too green. The statements that felt so cool yesterday and left Little Lion shocked became rather poignant after she had drunk herself into forgetting the wallet. If Little Lion finds out, she'd probably be too embarrassed to see him all week. Hold on, if we're talking, let's do it right. Why are you blushing? Seeing the red-haired director's slightly shy cheeks, and recalling how she and Leon's lips swelled together in the realm of the dead, Emma's heart skipped a beat. Then she gritted her teeth and asked, Olivia, did you say something to Leon again after I left yesterday? Oh? Hearing Emma's question, the red-haired director's heart also skipped a beat, then instantly returned to her usual composed expression and calmly asked in return, What? Damn. You can fool others but not me. Whatever you say with that expression can't be trusted. Biting her lip, Emma didn't respond but got up and walked towards the door. As for the red-haired director, who was clueless about what went wrong, she instinctively called out to stop her. Wait, he's not in there. Leon has already left. Hearing the red-haired director's words, Emma paused slightly, then turned her head and looked at her suspiciously. He really isn't here. Seeing Emma stop, the red-haired director let out a sigh of relief and quickly said, It's already noon. Before you came back, Leon went to the police department cafeteria for lunch. Really? Really? Then why did you knock on his office door knowing he wasn't there? Steady now. After piling 5 or 6 pieces of fried cod onto Leon's tray, the cafeteria lady at the police department shook her wrist and scooped a full ladle of beef, pouring it all with broth over the rice. All right, off you go. If it's not enough, come back for more. More? If I come back for more, I'll be stuffed to the point of bursting, staring at the amount of food enough for 2 grown men. Not sure where he had caught the cafeteria lady's favor, Leon, practically full already, could only smile bitterly and request, could I? Tomorrow is green pea salmon, roast chicken, and mushroom cream soup. Check the menu at the entrance for the rest. Finish up and move along. We've got people waiting. I wasn't asking about tomorrow's menu. I was asking if you could give me a bit less. With a line of towering police officers hungrily gazing from behind, Leon hunkered down, carrying his tray away from the serving station and settled at his usual spot, staring at the plate full of food with dismay. That's way too much. This pile of food could probably feed even a pig until it's about 70% full, right? But just as Leon took a deep breath, deciding he'd rather risk overeating than waste food, a pig, oh no, a familiar figure carrying a tray, sat in the empty seat across from him. Knew you'd be here. Slapping her tray onto the table, the female officer with 2 big dark circles under her eyes said seriously, Leon, I need your help with something. Okay, but first, you need to help me out. Seeing his savior arrive, Leon nodded eagerly, and he hastily used the female officer's spoon to scoop half of his stew onto her tray. Help me eat a couple pieces. Aunt Diana piled up my plate so much today it's a bit too much. Chapter 422. Caught in the crossfire. Sure, it's a bit much. Leon observed the towering stack of dishes in front of him and nodded silently. The female police officer, still eating from Leon's plate, leaned in and whispered conspiratorially, Leon, you know that big scandal from a while back? The Secret Investigation Bureau has finished looking into it. It was probably those radical rebels. A while back. You mean the Marquis who drowned himself? Go back further. If I think further back. Leon felt a slight twitch in his heart, then cautiously responded, Do you mean? Of course, I'm talking about the boarding tower being set on fire. Haven't you read the newspapers? You really haven't read them. The female officer looked at Leon in disbelief and couldn't help but chide. Even though that's not exactly our department's business, you're still part of the police force. Surely a subscription to the Police Gazette is a must. It's not about subscribing. It's because I was the one who set the boarding tower on fire. The artificial intelligence inside the Sky Clipper is even now collecting dust in my mirror world. And besides, you had something to do with it too. After all, the counterfeit documents and uniforms I used to get past the defense lines were obtained from the unlisted stock in your police department. Forget it. If you haven't read it, you haven't read it. Unaware that she was part of the boarding tower attack, the female officer shook her head. She abandoned attempts to explain the importance of newspapers to Leon and decided to bring him a subscription the next time she got one. Then gravely added, "If you don't know about the boarding tower incident, just know that it was set on fire, and a very valuable special sky clipper was lost too." The Kralik Kingdom heard the news and was extremely angry. They applied direct pressure on the kingdom through the ambassador, demanding results within 2 months. Even if they couldn't catch the criminals, they at least had to recover the core components of the missing sky clipper. "So, this task was dumped on your shoulders. What did you think?" She dug into a large spoonful of rice pudding, taking a few vengeful bites before the tired-looking female officer said helplessly, "Who else would they turn to for finding criminals and retrieving things other than us in the police department? The leeches in the finance ministry. Leon, did you know?" After the Kralik ambassador sent an official note saying that economic relations would be severed if no results were seen within a month, and the Sky Clipper transportation routes would be temporarily shut down, the top brass in the capital city panicked. The princess, the prime minister, the minister of defense, the foreign minister, the minister of finance. For the past few days, the upper echelons have been taking turns exerting pressure. Except for the princess, who offered some help, everyone's tone has grown more severe. In just a few days, the Minister of Public Safety's hair has turned gray with worry. "You should hurry up and eat while listening to this. If you don't, your food will get cold." Oh. Sticking a piece of fried cod into his mouth, Leon chewed thoughtfully as he frowned. "No wonder there are so few officers coming to eat recently, and they all look like they haven't had a good night's sleep in days, just like you. Have they all been dispatched?" "Yes, exactly." Taking a piece of apple pie from Leon's plate, the female officer said dispiritedly, "Especially our Secret Investigation Bureau, since we've always been the ones dealing with the rebels, we've been scolded the most. The new bureau chief is being yelled at every day by the Minister of Public Safety, and he comes back covered in spit to yell at us. Look over there." As she spoke, she pointed with her fork to their side. Following her motion, Leon saw a police officer with even darker circles under their eyes than Isha, hunched over at the dining table, lifelessly poking at mashed potatoes with a spoon, nodding off now and then. Honestly, watching that chicken-pecking rice way of eating made Leon seriously doubt if he knew where his spoon was. He seemed ready to shove it up his nose at any moment. He was on duty with the External Affairs team yesterday and just returned this morning after finishing a patrol. Once he's done eating, he still has to go back for a meeting. Looking sympathetically at the weary colleague who seemed on the verge of death, the female officer said with a full look of dread, "He is on the 3rd round of patrol duties, which is already much easier. Those of us who went on the 1st round of patrols haven't slept for over 70 hours. We ran through most of the capital city, and when we finally came back, we felt like we were going to die. I really can't believe it. Those rebels must be out of their minds. With all that free time, why not take out the Minister of Finance? Even attacking the royal palace would be better. Why did they have to attack the boarding tower? Honestly, I'd rather they went back to trying to assassinate my dad as they did before than going through this kind of overtime. Over 70 hours. I don't even know how I managed to survive." "Oh well, sorry, when I planned the attack on the boarding tower, I really didn't know it would lead to this." "Hey, Isha." Seeing the female officer gnawing on a fish bone in a mix of anger, ready to curse the rebels at any moment, Leon, mastermind of the boarding tower incident and cause of the whole police department's overtime, sheepishly said, "What was that help you needed from me?" "Oh right, almost forgot." Unladylike, she spat out the fishbone and raised her head, looking at Leon with hopeful eyes. "Does your Purification Bureau have anything that can find people or anyone who's really good at finding things? Although there's more than a month before the Kralik Kingdom's maximum deadline, I'm going for the 4th round of patrols tomorrow. If we don't find anything, we might have to do 8 or 9 more rounds." Boo-hoo. After swallowing a huge mouthful of stewed beef, it was hard to say if she was more scalded or tortured by the foreseeable hellish overtime of the next 2 months, as her eyes filled with rare tears and she pleaded, "Please, Leon, could you give me a hand? Even if you can't find the criminals who attacked the boarding tower, retrieving what the Kralik Kingdom lost would be enough. At this rate, I'm worried I really won't hold up. I'd like to help you, but the problem is that the culprit who attacked the boarding tower is the very person sitting across from you, eating, and the thing the Kralik Kingdom wants is right in my cufflink. I can't exactly arrest myself and hand me over. Can I? Sorry. I don't think I can help with that. Apologizing silently to Isha, who was unwittingly caught up in the fallout, Leon, knowing she'd never find the answers no matter how hard she'd try, cautiously suggested, "How about this? I'll get our director to write a note saying there's a special situation requiring cooperation. Then you could use the note to take a break, sneak into my office, and rest for a few hours, just to take a breather." Chapter 423. Overjoyed. Was he making an excuse to be a bit lazy? After hearing Leon's suggestion, the policewoman couldn't help but feel a slight stir in her heart. She instinctively wanted to agree, because even an extra hour of sleep seemed like a luxury, given how busy they'd been. However, just then, she heard a loud bang next to her. Not far away, a male police officer, who was nodding off like a chicken pecking at grain, knocked his head into his own plate. If it weren't for a colleague nearby pulling him away, he might have fallen to the ground. Never mind. Glancing at the unlucky colleague, the policewoman couldn't help but sigh with a hint of melancholy, saying helplessly, "Everyone is working so hard. If I slack off by myself, I'd really feel guilty. Besides, I've been promoted quickly enough in the past 2 years. Many at the bureau already think I got my position through connections, and I don't want to give them more to gossip about. All right then." Casting a slightly admiring glance at the policewoman, Leon, feeling helpless, continued eating in silence. As the policewoman scooped some mashed potatoes, she suddenly remembered something and asked with concern, "By the way, last time you asked for an order from me, saying you needed it to take some people on a dangerous mission and wanted to borrow some items from the Secret Investigation Bureau's spare parts depot. Have you returned those things yet?" Those things. Although Senior Peony returned to the bureau yesterday, those documents and uniforms should still be with the rebels. Not yet. Knowing what he had used those items for, Leon replied with a slightly evasive look. "Why? Does your bureau check the spare parts depot?" "They generally don't check." The policewoman shook her head. "The management of the spare parts depot is lax. They might not check it for years. Yesterday, when I was helping with inventory, I even discovered that the depot's keepers had been embezzling. They've secretly been selling some items that aren't too sensitive for 3 years now." Having withstood various kinds of scrutiny, Leon's voice was utterly calm. The policewoman, while eating, didn't notice anything unusual, and casually complained to Leon as though chatting at home. "You know, a lot of people in our bureau basically don't keep track of stuff. If no one had attacked the boarding tower, those 2 rats could have easily gotten away with it, and the guys who just focus on catching people wouldn't have noticed the depot's issues. But now everyone's working in overdrive, and the consumption of supplies has been too severe. They've ended up using everything in the depot, and when the numbers didn't add up, they did an inventory. I was even asked to help. Soon after I submitted the report this morning, those 2 keepers embezzling materials were caught. So if you're done with them, you'd better return the items, explain the reason for borrowing, and make a proper record. Though those keepers embezzled a lot of stuff and fake accounting over the past 3 years, it's not like they'd miss just a little of what you took, but better to confirm inventory so it doesn't look like I'm colluding to steal bureau supplies." "Oh! There was still no possibility of returning them. Never in this life. When passing through checkpoints, the serial numbers of those passes had been noted down. Returning them would cause havoc." Quickly finishing what was on his plate, Leon picked up the soup bowl from the policewoman's plate and gulped a mouthful, forcing the food down. He hurriedly stood up to take his leave. "Well, I've got tasks to do today, so I'm off now. That's my soup. And you? Never mind, go. Eating in such a hurry, it seems Leon's tasks at the Purification Bureau aren't easy as well. Watching Leon rush off and seeing other colleagues not far away slumped in their chairs snoring, The policewoman couldn't help but empathize, letting out a sigh, and quickly finished the pudding on her plate. She then collected her and Leon's plates to the wash area, leaving the canteen and heading swiftly back to the Secret Investigation Bureau. Isha, come with me quickly. As she entered the Secret Investigation Bureau's first-floor hall, a familiar middle-aged female police officer came jogging over with excitement written all over her face. To the small meeting room on the third floor. There's a major discovery just now. A major discovery. That would mean a possibility of catching the culprits, retrieving the lost items of the Kralik Kingdom, and finally escaping this hellish overtime. Hearing the words of her colleague, the policewoman couldn't hide a joyful gleam in her eyes, darting like a mother leopard into the stairwell, taking the stairs two at a time, heading straight to the small meeting room at the corner labeled Temporary Command Center. Everyone, I have 3 exciting pieces of good news in my hand. The middle-aged man at the podium, whose speech was interrupted by the cheerful arrival of the policewoman, nodded kindly at her before continuing with his spirited speech. Over the past few days, my team has completed the investigation of all 7 groups of checkpoints at the boarding tower, totaling 2,300 guard troops, and obtained the complete list of individuals who passed through the checkpoints on that day. The first piece of good news is, after enduring sleepless nights and dedicated efforts for 3 days by the investigation team members, we've ruled out 37 groups of people with normal travels and narrowed our target down to 5 suspicious groups. Only 5 groups left? That truly was huge news. Hearing the newly appointed director of the Secret Investigation Bureau's announcement, the policewoman felt revitalized, the dark circles under her eyes fading a bit. Given the current efficiency at the Bureau, they could investigate these 5 groups thoroughly within a week, let alone 50 groups. It meant the case of the rebels attacking the boarding tower was close to being solved. Observing the delighted expressions on the officers below the podium, the man on stage nodded in satisfaction. Unable to restrain the upturn of his lips, he smiled widely and added, regarding the second piece of good news, following the inventory of the spare parts depot this morning, 4 of these 5 groups can largely be ruled out. What? Doesn't that mean we've already identified the target? Praise the heavens. Finally, no more overtime. Director, you're amazing. Witnessing the commotion below, followed by admiring gazes directed at him, the middle-aged man on the podium couldn't help but press his lips tightly, trying to maintain the composure befitting a director. However, when considering the significant merit awaiting him once the case was resolved, and his likely rise in career standing, he ultimately couldn't hold back. Joy spread across his face as he announced, "Indeed, we've preliminarily identified the target. Once we locate this group of individuals, there's a high probability of closing the case directly." Fantastic! The director never disappoints. Get them. Get them. Silence. Raising his hand to quiet the exhilarating atmosphere, the middle-aged man looked at Isha, whose excitement mirrored those of her other colleagues, and thinking of her linkage to the Minister of Defense, he waved warmly at her. Lastly, besides the efforts made by myself and the investigation unit members, for this good news to be discovered, we owe thanks to one person. As the perplexed policewoman stepped onto the podium, the middle-aged man smiled and said, while everyone was overwhelmed with work and didn't want to focus on other matters, only Isha diligently verified inventories, identifying most missing items from the spare parts depot. To my embarrassment, when she submitted the inventory results this morning, I initially thought it was a fuss over nothing to divert attention from such critical times and check on objects nobody cared about. However, with a spirit of responsibility, I glanced at her report. To my utter shock, I discovered that the serial numbers of the missing police credentials coincidentally matched the ones used by one of those 5 groups. Having deliberately emphasized his own conscientiousness, as well as a keen eye for suspicious numbers, the middle-aged man shared gleefully. While we'd run checks on these numbers before, proving them to be false leads involving already discarded police numbers, we focused on suspect individuals with access to the seal and didn't delve deeper. Thanks to Isha's diligence, we've now obtained pivotal new leads. Applause for her. Oh! Isha! Isha! Another overtime and I'd have been dead. Isha, you saved my life. Well, I honestly just stumbled upon the clue. No need to overstate it. Receiving overly grateful looks from her colleagues and feeling a bit embarrassed, the policewoman, despite her cheeks being slightly flushed with joy, waved her hands repeatedly and quickly changed the topic. Director, you mentioned 3 pieces of good news earlier. What's the last piece of news? The final piece of news is, we've now identified partial features of the key suspect. The middle-aged man smiled and elaborated. According to the accounts from the 2 depot keepers, despite not having documented it, they vaguely recalled someone picking up the credentials and clothing before the boarding tower attack occurred, using a slip from a secret investigation bureau member. Though the lights in the depot were dim, making it seem like there was a haze over the person's face, they didn't remember the details too well. That slip also suddenly disappeared, but it seemed to be a slender young man wearing a black old coat. As long as we find this person next, and ask about the whereabouts of those items, there's a strong chance we'll catch the entire group in one go. We are really just one step away from closing this case now. Fantastic! The case is closing. Finally closing. Isha, you're my lifesaver. My goddess. Amid the enthusiastic cheers of the secret police below, the middle-aged man laughed heartily, patting the policewoman's shoulder in full admiration and praise. We have you to thank for all this. If it weren't for your meticulous efforts, we, going off in wrong investigative directions, would still have had to spend at least a month reaching this point, by which time the criminals might have fled. Haha. Remarkable. Next time I meet your father, I'll definitely… Huh? What's wrong? Aren't you happy? Happy. Very happy. Hearing the middle-aged man's query, amidst the director's previous words were a number of familiar descriptions. The policewoman bit firmly on her small white teeth, then smiled with subdued fury, with her eyes full of killing intent. I'm so thrilled. Chapter 424. The Pink Enigma. Director. When all the officers of the Secret Investigation Bureau were out searching for a suspicious suspect, Leon hurried back to the Purification Bureau and knocked on the director's office door. I'd like to request half a day off. After making his request, Leon knitted his brows and said, the police department is investigating the attack on the boarding tower. Due to the urgency at the time, many things weren't done discreetly enough. I'm worried they might find something. Director, please grant me a half-day leave this afternoon. I want to make contact with the rebels I was with during the boarding tower attack and erase some rather obvious traces we left. All right. After listening seriously to Leon's request, the red-haired director, who was pouring tea into a liquor bottle, paused before taking a sheet of paper out of the drawer and handing it to him. You don't need to take leave. I'll count it as fieldwork for you. But after you finish your business, there's another task you need to complete. Is there a new mission? Hearing the red-haired director's words, Leon's expression slightly tensed, and he picked up the note on the table to read. After 6 o'clock in the evening, go to the VIP section of the Pink Mystery Bar on Canal Street and look for a waiter named Jacob. Ask him if he picked up a wallet left by a customer at the bar yesterday. Okay. Firmly committing the contents of the note to memory, Leon asked seriously, Director, what's with this Jacob? Is he a naturally awakened anomalous object holder? A servant of some evil god? Or perhaps a remnant of the Scales Gold sect? He's none of those, just an ordinary waiter. He probably just secretly took the wallet I left on the counter. But how could I say that to you? It's a bit complicated to explain, and you have things to do later, so I won't say much. After mumbling a few incoherent words, the red-haired director nodded slightly and said with a serious face, in any case, you must handle this matter cautiously. Keep contact with him to a minimum, and don't ask anything unrelated to the task, especially regarding the owner of the wallet. Otherwise, it'll easily alert him. Asterisk, not even asking for the name or characteristics. It seems the owner of that wallet has quite the background. Asterisk. I understand. Taking the director's earnest advice to heart, Leon tentatively asked, What if that waiter named Jacob didn't take the wallet? Do you need me to figure out a way to get it back? The red-haired director seemed surprised and said, "Aren't you only good at finding people? Since when did you have the ability to find things?" "It's not that I can find things, but I can use the method of infiltrating dreams to indirectly explore someone's memories." Pointing to the lust dream invader hanging inside his shirt, Leon said, "I recently discovered this usage. After enough interactions with the target, I can temporarily drag him into a dream and replay some events that happened before. If the target has a deep enough memory of something, I can follow and watch that part of his memory in his dream, gaining some relevant intelligence. So, if that waiter didn't take my wallet but saw who did, you could replay the situation from that night in the dream and see the thief's face and build? This ability is really something perfectly tailored for a cleaner." After listening to Leon's explanation, the red-haired director was slightly moved, but remembering the times he acted bravely in front of Leon, a strong sense of shame rushed over him, and he quickly shook his head in refusal. "No need, no need. You just need to confirm whether he took the wallet, and don't do anything else." "Oh!" Hearing this, Leon couldn't help but slightly wrinkle his brows. It seems the opponent this time isn't to be underestimated, and might even be very dangerous, which is why the director doesn't want me to have much contact with the person. Also, seeing the director's cautious demeanor, could that wallet be an anomalous object with space-related features, containing many dangerous items inside? You go take care of your tasks first. Seeing Leon's thoughtful frown, worried he might ask something that would give it away, the red-haired director quickly urged him out. "Remember, safety first this time. You just need to handle what's on the note, and don't do anything else. Leave the rest to me." "Okay." Seeing the red-haired director emphasize safety repeatedly in these critical times, Leon's heart warmed slightly. He nodded earnestly and left the director's office. After Leon left, the red-haired director, who had been sitting upright with a serious face, couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief and took a swig from the tea-filled whiskey bottle. "Now I really hope that the wallet was indeed taken by that waiter. I accidentally let it slip earlier, and in her anger, Emma took back the money she lent me, and who knows when Jerry will return and find the wallet. If Leon doesn't succeed in finding my wallet, there won't be anything to drink for the next few days. Maybe I should submit a report to the Safety Department Minister suggesting the cafeteria supply some alcoholic beverages?" Unaware that the important task he accepted was actually just private business of an irresponsible director, Leon arrived punctually on Joyful Street, where the Target bar was located, just as the sun was setting. As one of the busiest streets near the port in the canal area, every ship passing through the capital city brings a large flow of customers to. Thus, this place housed more bars and nightlife spots than anywhere else in the capital city. A lively world that sleeps quietly during the day and comes alive only at night. The Pink Mystery Bar, where Leon's target was the most dazzling night pearl in this street that only awakened at 6 in the evening. "Sir, we're approaching the Pink Mystery's Watergate." Pointing to the arched structure resembling a bridge ahead, the boatman in a vibrant pink uniform expertly maneuvered the similarly pink-painted or to guide the small boat rightward along the artificial waterway, then said with a beaming smile, "Is this your first time here?" Pink Mystery is divided into 9 different sections, with no roads or bridges connecting them, only water channels. Where would you like to go? You should decide now. This place called Pink Mystery seems a bit too high-end. Looking at the 9 different directions the waterways flowed under the brightly lit bridge, Leon identified them, then pointed to the channel with a bottle symbol on a nearby sign and asked, "Is that the channel to the bar? If it is, then let's go there." "The beverage area? Okay. Please hold on." The muscular pink-clad boatman nodded with a smile, steering the pinkish boat to the far left channel. Upon glancing at the goat's head Leon was carrying, he kindly reminded in a low voice, "Sir, as per the rules, you can't bring your own foodstuff into the Pink Mystery's beverage and catering areas. Would you like to?" "Nonsense." At this moment, a furious voice erupted from inside the shopping bag. "Who are you calling food? You're the food. Your whole family is food. Chapter 425. Huh? Ah! After hearing the angry shout from the shopping bag, the boatman's perpetually smiling face suddenly froze. His eyes widened in shock as he pointed at the shopping bag in Leon's hand, stammering, It's it. You. What's wrong with you? After warning the black goat to shut its mouth, Leon looked over, somewhat puzzled. Hurry up and row the boat. There are other passengers waiting, and blocking their way wouldn't be good.
No.
It talked. Talked? Who talked? The goat head. The goat head you're carrying. Did you mishear? The small red fork hidden in his chest pocket subtly vibrated twice. Leon slightly opened the shopping bag in his hand, letting the boatman peek inside at the wooden black goat sculpture. And then calmly fibbed, "This is just a sculpture. How could it talk? Wooden sculpture?" The muscular boatman in a pink uniform carefully leaned over to take a couple of peeks. "But I clearly heard just now. You must be tired." After switching to the master performer's badge, Leon looked at him with some sympathy, then gently comforted him. "Is this job causing you a lot of stress? If you're not feeling well, just drop me off at the drink area and you can head back home to rest. No need to refund the remaining fare."
No.
"There's no need, I feel all right. Asterisk, could it be that I'm really too tired?" Asterisk. Under the dual influence of the lust dream invader and the master performer, the muscular boatman hesitated for a moment, even though the angry shout seemed to still echo in his ears. He accepted Leon's explanation and resumed rowing the small passenger boat. Phew, managed to get through that. Seeing the boatman didn't say anything more, Leon breathed a small sigh of relief. He then quietly reached into the shopping bag and gave the black goat's head a sharp pinch. "You almost blew our cover just now, you know? If anything like that happens again, I'll keep you stashed away in the mirror world. It's just, that old guy called us ingredients. We're a great demon. Back then we..." All right. I know you're a great demon, one step away from ascending to godhood. Being mistaken for ingredients would, of course, make you angry. But this situation is special, so you better behave no matter what. Considering the upcoming mission required the black goat's sole vision, Leon refrained from berating it but instead sternly advised, "Before I came, the director specifically told me that safety is the priority for this mission. Our task is just to gather information, and we can't attract unnecessary attention, as that might be dangerous. Even though I have an undying body, the director still reminded me to be cautious about exposure, which means this enemy is quite formidable. So we have to be extra careful. SK. Got it." Hearing that even the red-haired woman thought this mission was dangerous, the black goat shrank its neck a bit and added a note of caution in its heart, but it still spoke dismissively. "If you ask me, she probably just came here for a drink, got so wasted she forgot her wallet, and was too embarrassed to tell you the truth, so she concocted some spooky mission to trick you into running an errand. Maybe there's really nothing going on. Haha, with the level of your guts when you were a great demon, if only you had half as much mouth, you wouldn't have been torn into 7 pieces. After listening to the black goat, Leon gave it a disdainful side-eye. Even if the director did lose her wallet, with Senior Jerry back in a few days, wouldn't it be easy to find it again? Besides, if she really needed money, she could borrow it from Senior Emma. Does she need to go through all this trouble to fool me? All right, enough nonsense. Time to get to work." Too lazy to argue with the still defiant black goat, Leon took a deep breath as he looked at the 3-story building sitting on the water in the distance. His expression serious, he pressed his finger to the goat's forehead and quietly activated the soul vision. Boom! It was like countless erratic neon lights lit up simultaneously, or like a dozen buckets of colorful paint were dumped onto a vast, dark canvas. Leon felt his brain throb slightly as a large mass of vibrant yet ill-defined soul flames flooded his vision. Wild, chaotic, intoxicating, frenzied, just the 1/9 section of the pink mystery in front of him had nearly 2,000 souls burning in a vivid, perhaps even descending, splendor. This place isn't bad. I like it. After taking a deep breath full of chaotic flavor, the black goat disembarked with Leon. Couldn't help but grin, chuckling. Maybe I misjudged that red-haired woman. With so many intense souls gathered, something extraordinary might be brewing. Indeed, the director is quite reliable when sober. Leon nodded in agreement, then tied up the shopping bag, picked up the goat head, and entered the predominantly pink three-story building. Hearing his footsteps, a smartly dressed attendant immediately stepped out from the waiting area behind the door, smiling. "Good day, guest. Which floor would you like to visit?" "Which floor? Is there a difference between them? The higher, the better." "Not entirely." The attendant smiled. "Our pink mystery drink area aims to give every guest the best service possible. The floors are categorized mainly to let everyone have more fun. For instance, the first floor is an open drinking area. Though slightly noisy, the atmosphere is great for those who want to drink heartily. The second floor is split into smaller sections, suitable for those who prefer quieter settings to gather with a few friends and sip leisurely. As for the top third floor, it's for guests who place great importance on the quality and taste, even the ambience, of their drinks. Got it, the first floor is cheap, the second is pricey, and the third is exorbitantly expensive." Subtly clutching his wallet, Leon, who was already pained by the boat fare, nodded, carefully asking, "Then the VIP area, which floor is it on?" "Haha, just coming here makes you a VIP at our pink mystery. Our service is as attentive and detailed as possible, ensuring you have a wonderful and pleasant experience." After some courteous yet confident expressions, the attendant elaborated. "However, there are certain guests who refer to the top third floor as the VIP area. Do you have an appointment with a guest on the third floor? If so, I can take you up right away." So, the VIP area is like a membership, and without a referral or sufficient status, access is restricted? Detecting the subtle undertones in the attendant's words, Leon frowned slightly. He instinctively wanted to activate the Lust Dream Invader to have the attendant let him up to the third floor via a dream. However, recalling the director's repeated warnings, fearing the anomalous object's disturbance might be detected, Leon instead tapped his cuff link to retrieve the identity badge from the Ryan family. "Can this get me to the third floor? Is that the lion emblem? A 5-feathered gold crown? Then that would make him the Duke of Lionheart." Astonished, the attendant, trained in such matters, immediately recognized the badge's significance, and his eyes began to shimmer with fervor. "Of course it will." In a hurry to step aside, the attendant graciously stated, "Your Grace, the Duke, since it's your first visit, we kindly ask you to register briefly and leave a signature. Then, we'll attach any resulting bills to your signature and settle them with the Ryan family while minimizing any disturbance to you. How does that sound? Does that mean if I spend here, you'll bill the Ryan family?" Hearing today's expenses would be covered, Leon couldn't help but feel overjoyed. Sizzle. Name. Aberrant names register. Corruption. Name. Location. Appearance. Chapter 426. No second chances. Name. Aberrant names register. Corruption. Name. Location. Appearance. A leather register book exceptionally beautiful in craftsmanship, smooth and warm to the touch. After the signatory writes their name, the exact number of sins they have committed appears on the back. Ability. Sin recording. Names of demons. Target positioning. Cost. For the signer, once you write your name, your essence will be permanently recorded until death. For the user, each use of the positioning ability consumes one record of their own sin. File. An ancient anomalous object crafted from the facial skin of a divine-level curse rune demon, capable of covertly recording the signatory's information using the innate power of curse rules, and instantly locating their current position upon activation, limited to the same plane. This special anomalous object was created by the Lord of Betrayal, the 9th ranked among the Hell Monarchs, to guard against betrayal by his subordinates. It was sewn directly into the flesh of his left hand. However, During an invasion 375 years ago, the head of the Gemini Subbureau ambushed the Lord of Betrayal, using the anomalous object, dividing frame, to sever his left hand. The aberrant names register sewn onto his hand became the spoils of war and was stored in the Gemini Subbureau's warehouse. Evaluation. Flip over the third signature book starting with the letter A, and you'll see an unexpected surprise. Contamination value, 0, signer, /half of the current contamination value of the target being queried, user. Through your observation and summarization, you have obtained a wealth of intelligence on the aberrant names register. Abnormal. Your resistance to this anomalous object has significantly increased, allowing you to shield yourself from deeper influence. Gemini Subbureau. *, so this mission is related to the Aquarius director? But wasn't he severely injured in the realm of the dead by the head? He couldn't possibly return in such a short time, could he? Is this a contingency? After reading the file on the aberrant names register and seeing familiar information within, Leon's brows unconsciously furrowed slightly. Following the suggestion in the evaluation section, he found the third signature book marked with the letter A and turned it over casually. A blank page. The back of the signature book was covered with paper. Not only the back, but apart from the page where he hadn't signed, all the front and back pages of the signature books were meticulously covered, revealing only the codes for each guest and the total amount of unsettled bills under their names. After furrowing his brows again, just as Leon was about to peel off the paper covering the back of the signature book, someone grabbed his arm. "Duke, Your Grace, please don't do that." Stopping Leon's rather rash action in time, the alarmed waiter visibly relaxed, then awkwardly reminded him, "According to the rules, all records for every guest, including you, are completely confidential, known only to those specially responsible. And the reason we do this is to better protect the privacy of our distinguished guests. So please. It's just a place to drink. Why all the secrecy?" Remembering the head's instructions to avoid alerting the enemy, Leon squinted slightly, temporarily abandoning the idea of looking at the signature book. He then pretended to be displeased and tossed the pen onto the register with a look of irritation, saying, "Fine, I won't look, and I won't sign either. I'm truly sorry, please this way." Seeing Leon give up looking at the signature book, the waiter breathed a sigh of relief and dared not mention the signature again. He signaled to the person behind the main counter to quickly put away the signature book, while swiftly guiding Leon toward the stairs. This is the VIP section. After ascending 3 flights, the nearly disastrous waiter led Leon to a seat at the bar on the 3rd floor, enthusiastically introducing, "The selection of drinks on the 3rd floor changes weekly, and the bartenders rotate at irregular intervals, each with their own style. If you're interested in a particular style, you can request it, and I can call them over for you. If you're not interested in mixed drinks and prefer pure spirits, you can lift the tapestry on your right. Behind it is a private room better suited for savoring a quiet drink alone." "Got it." Interrupting the waiter's chatter, to make it easier to find the waiter named Jacob and trace the wallet's whereabouts, Duke Leon, with a less than pleasant temperament, impatiently shooed him away. "Leave. I can look around myself. There's no need for you here." "All right." Seeing Leon's rather displeased expression, seemingly due to the earlier signing issue, the waiter, feeling a bit helpless, nodded and respectfully said, "Then I'll refrain from bothering you further, but by the rules I can't go too far. I'll wait for you in the waiting room between the 2nd and 3rd floors. If you need my service later, just signal the server on the 3rd floor to yell Jacob at the waiting room door, and I'll come back to assist you." Wait, your name is Jacob? *, so you're the waiter the head told me to find? But weren't you supposed to be in the 3rd floor VIP section? How did you end up greeting guests at the door? *, hold on a second. Calling out to stop the departing waiter, Leon cleared his throat and said, "Perhaps you should just stay." "Jacob? ? I just thought, as it's my first time here, it might be nice to have someone around for some introductions." *, you change your mind so quickly? This Duke is really something. Asterisk. Despite inwardly complaining a bit, as a waiter, Jacob maintained a polite and respectful smile, with no flaw in his manners. No other reason, the person in front of him was someone he couldn't possibly offend. That earlier reflexive action of grabbing the other's arm left his back soaked with sweat as he realized what he'd done. Considering the vast disparity in their status and position, it's best to comply with the other's requests directly. If the earlier incident happened again, he wasn't sure he'd have the courage to grab the Duke's arm a second time. Then, shall I continue serving you? Yeah, no trouble. Besides, I'm not interested in mixed drinks. Take me to the room behind the tapestry. Sure, right this way. Following behind Jacob after entering a private room obviously well insulated for sound. Leon tapped the black goat on the forehead with his left index finger, then pretended to pat himself down, exclaiming in a surprised tone, "Huh? Where's my wallet? My wallet's missing." Chapter 427. The Wallet Mystery. Why is there another lost wallet? Looking at the Duke of Lionheart anxiously searching his own body, Jacob's heart, which had just calmed down, suddenly jumped again. The incident of the guest losing their wallet yesterday had already caused him to lose his job as a waiter in the VIP area, forcing him to greet guests at the entrance. If the same mistake occurred just a day apart, he might not even have this job left. And if this ill-tempered Duke insisted on pursuing the matter, getting fired wouldn't be out of the question. Damn it! Why is it so hard for these damn guests to keep track of their wallets? Sir, don't worry. Let me help you recall. Taking 2 deep breaths, suppressing the heart that almost leapt out of his chest, Jacob, who thought things were not going well, forced a smile and said, "You're sure that before entering our drinks area, your wallet was still on you, correct? You're stating the obvious." After switching out the master performer, Leon, who lost his wallet, stomped his foot and shouted in anger, his face full of anxiety. "Didn't I show you my identity badge before? If I didn't have my wallet, where did I take the identity badge from? Was it from a dog on the street, carrying it in its mouth to me? Was it like this?" Trying hard to recall the situation when entering, Jacob seemed to remember that it was indeed the case and bit his lip when he started sweating on his forehead, his voice slightly trembling. "Then where have you been since you entered? You brought me everywhere on the way here, and you still ask me?" Leon, who had lost his wallet, shouted twice and anxiously said, "The entrance, main stage, stairs, bar, and this private room. Just these few places. Damn it! How could my wallet be gone?" Don't worry. Maybe it just dropped somewhere along the way. Let me help you look for it." Even though he kept saying not to worry, Jacob's mind was already in a panic. He quickly turned around, wanting to retrace their steps to search the area, without doubting whether Leon had really lost his wallet. After all, the other party was a genuine nobleman. Even if he was mocked by nobles for living off the princess's soft rice, he wouldn't pretend to lose a wallet to mock a little waiter like him, right? So it seemed the most likely place for the wallet would be after taking out the badge, or he might have put it on the main stage when signing something. If he searched quickly enough, maybe no one else would have picked it up yet. Wait! Just as Jacob was about to leave, he felt a sudden pain in his wrist, as if someone had forcefully grabbed him. Looking back in surprise, Jacob was horrified to find that the Duke, who had lost his wallet, was squinting his eyes and examining him suspiciously. "Why are you running? Huh? I was going to help you find your wallet." "Finding the wallet is fine, but I asked why you are running?" In the slightly dim room, Leon's sharp black eyes looked like 2 dark misty lamps, devouring the surrounding brightness while also swallowing the little courage Jacob had left. "If you want to find the wallet, why didn't you wait for me to go together? Why are you so eager to leave my side?" I was worried that someone else might pick up your wallet. Worried my wallet would be picked up by someone else? Or worried you wouldn't have time to hide what you stole? You think, no, it wasn't me. It really wasn't me. Seeing Leon was starting to suspect him of taking the wallet, Jacob shook all over and then shook his head, eyes full of fear. "I really didn't take it. I have never stolen anything from anyone. I swear." He was telling the truth. He really hadn't. Leon nodded slightly after observing Jacob's soulfire, which, although panicked and fearful, showed no contradiction or conflict, and continued probing while squinting his eyes. I suppose I'll trust you didn't take it, but do you really not know anything? What do you mean? I mean, people working as waiters usually don't want to offend others. For instance, if my wallet was left on the bar, and you saw someone else take it but realized that person was someone special, afraid of causing trouble, you might purposely say you knew nothing or didn't see that person's face. Would you do that? No, I wouldn't. I shouldn't. Why did you hesitate when you said that? Seeing Jacob's soulfire showing minor instability and conflict, yet not to the extent of lying, Leon couldn't help but frown. Then he switched from the suspicious Duke to the outraged Duke, saying coldly, "Tell me quick, what are you hesitating about?" I've been patient enough. Leon, the impatient Duke, raised a finger, his expression unfriendly. This is your last chance. Tell the truth about what you're hesitating, or don't blame me for calling in people to arrest you. I hope when you fall into the hands of the Secret Investigation Bureau's secret police, you can still be this stubborn. No. I'll tell you. I'll tell now. Seeing the Duke in front of him was truly angry. Jacob panicked and quickly spilled the beans. The reason I hesitated was because yesterday there was also a guest who lost a wallet. She lost her wallet just like you, and I clearly remember that someone took it, and I specifically looked at that person, trying to remember their appearance. But when the guest who lost the wallet came back looking for it, I just couldn't remember the face of the person who took the wallet. Only remembered someone did pick it up, and I can't even remember whether it was a man or a woman. Unable to remember a face. So was it a memory-erasing anomalous object? Or an anomalous object that made presence lower? After storing the gathered information in his mind, Leon's expression changed slightly, and he remembered the aberrant names register from the Gemini Subbureau, along with someone from there, a female reporter named Nicole. If he remembered correctly, she had something that could eliminate traces. Was making witnesses forget her face also part of Yang Wei's effect? Without the aberrant names register, it might not have been obvious, but with the presence of an anomalous object from the Gemini Subbureau and signs of Gemini Subbureau member activities, it all seemed very suspicious. I see. Murmuring to himself, Leon slightly softened his tense expression, looked at the very frightened waiter in front of him with a peaceful face, and said, "Then I'll tentatively believe that you didn't take my wallet. I originally planned to have a good drink today, but I couldn't even register, and my wallet was lost too." After waving off his disinterest, Leon stood up with a disappointed look and said, "Forget it, no more drinking." "Oh, sorry, really sorry." Seeing Leon seem to give up on investigating the wallet, Jacob couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief and quickly followed behind, escorting him down the stairs step by step, then asked for paper and pen at the main stage, eagerly saying, "If you don't mind, could you tell me the design of your wallet? And anything inside that you can reveal?" Considering to put on a full show, losing the wallet and not being hurried to find it while wanting to leave only raised suspicions, Leon casually made up, "My wallet is naturally embroidered with the Ryan family's lion crest, then stitched with my name using expensive gold thread, containing my picture, and there's quite a lot of money inside. I forgot exactly how much because for someone like me, remembering to bring money is good enough. Who has the energy to count how much was brought? Anyway, there's always enough to spend, don't you think?" Right. You are absolutely right." Cursing under his breath that damn nobles deserve to get crushed by an 18-wheel steam carriage back and forth, Jacob wore a smile as he escorted Leon to the waiting area. Then he hurried back to the main stage with the recorded features. Meanwhile, sitting on the waiting area sofa, Leon squinted and pondered what exactly that female reporter from the Gemini Subbureau wanted to do, and whether she knew about the news that the Aquarius director was sent to the realm of the dead. "Your Grace." Just as Leon was frowning in deep thought, an excited calling voice suddenly reached his ear. Leon raised his head in surprise and saw Jacob coming over with an exquisite golden thread wallet. Full of joy as he reported cheerfully, "Your Grace, Your wallet has been found. Chapter 428. Fateful Entanglement. No way. I was just making things up earlier. How did they actually bring it to me? Staring at the golden-threaded wallet handed in front of him, Leon's mind went blank for a moment. Then he suspiciously examined the something-from-nothing waiter. Asterisk, could it be? He thought I was asking for a bribe? Asterisk. Asterisk, but that doesn't make sense either. To him, I'm a wealthy duke. Why would I need to solicit a bribe from a waiter? What would be my motive? Asterisk. Leon, unable to make sense of it, didn't take the wallet from the waiter. Instead, he waved his hand with a frown, saying, "You might have made a mistake. This shouldn't be my wallet." Huh. Hearing Leon's words, Jacob's face briefly froze. Then he persisted. "Why don't you open it and take a look? I found it based on the characteristics you mentioned, so it shouldn't be wrong. I did mention my wallet is a golden-threaded wallet with a lion motif, but that doesn't mean every wallet with a lion motif is mine." Taking the wallet from the waiter's hand, flipping to the side embroidered with the lion motif, Leon pointed to the stitched name above the lion's head. "Look, for example, this name clearly says, asterisk, what's going on? That's actually my name. Asterisk. Your Grace. It seems you might have made a mistake." Seeing Leon in a daze, Jacob breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "The lighting here is relatively dim, so the wallet might look a bit different than it does outside. At first glance, it might not seem quite like yours. And being a grand aristocrat like yourself, you usually have a tendency to carry things for you when you go out, so it's not unusual for you to be unfamiliar with your own wallet's appearance. Asterisk, no, this isn't a matter of whether I recognized it wrong. My wallet is still lying in the mirror world. It wasn't lost at all. Asterisk. Well, it could be that someone shares my name." Feeling a bit flustered by the wallet bearing his name, Leon quickly opened it, flipping to where his identification should be, then argued, "If this is my wallet, there should be my portrait here. What the hell? There actually is." Seeing the photo of himself looking haughtily down at the camera clipped in the document holder, Leon's mind went slightly numb, and recalling the bureau chief's instructions before he came, he became instinctively alert. Asterisk, even though it's a photo and not a portrait like I mentioned, it's still pretty outrageous. Could it be this building is actually some kind of anomalous object? One that can satisfy one's wishes, or create something out of nothing? Asterisk. It seems you indeed remembered incorrectly. This is indeed your wallet. After glancing at the photo, the waiter Jacob breathed a sigh of relief and returned to his previous genial demeanor, politely asking, "Congratulations on recovering your lost belongings. So, Your Grace, now that you've found your wallet, would you like to go up to the 3rd floor for a drink?"
No.
Not necessary. Seeing the curious gazes directed at him, Leon opened and closed his lips slightly, then pressed them together again. Considering that dragging this out might draw further attention, he was forced to accept this dubious wallet. With a stiff expression on his face, he said, "I plan to check out other places. Please escort me out." "Certainly, please, this way." Seeing this troublesome guest finally leave, Jacob breathed a sigh of relief, then respectfully led the way and escorted Leon out. Not long after they left, a small golden-haired man who had been snoozing at the 1st-floor bar twitched slightly and fell from his chair with a thud. When the arriving waiter helped him up and asked about his condition, the bleary-eyed little golden-haired man muttered that he wasn't drunk and instinctively reached for his waist. Then, "Huh? Where's my wallet?" Finding the spot where his wallet should have hung empty, the little golden-haired man's intoxication subsided a bit. Then, supported by the waiter, he staggeringly approached the main counter near the entrance and hammered it firmly with his fist. "Someone! My wallet is gone. I need to report it lost." "All right, Stephen Lane." "Correct." Looking over the completely intoxicated little golden-haired man before him, the receptionist behind the main counter opened a notebook and asked gently, "Can you describe your wallet?" "I'm surnamed Lane, so what kind of design could my wallet have?" "Of course it's golden like my hair. with our Ryan family's lion motif on the bottom. Standing steadily with his hand on the counter and dressed in a military training uniform, the bleary-eyed little golden-haired man slurred. And underneath the wallet, there's the name of the Duke I once idolized, with a photo of him inside. Boo-hoo. I'm so damn miserable. As he spoke, it seemed like some strange switch had been flipped, as the flushed little golden-haired man suddenly hugged the counter and wept bitterly. I idolized the Duke so much, but he kidnapped me, forcing me to drive powered armor for him. You know, he attacked. I can't speak of it, but he forced me to drive powered armor for him. Boo-hoo. I just said I'd rather die than help him escape, yet I had to drive powered armor for him to flee. Now everyone calls me Steely Steven. I'm famous throughout the armored army. Everyone laughs at me when they see me. The little golden-haired man became more agitated as he spoke, and while he banged his head against the counter and cried with snot running down his face, you know, after that day, everyone laughs when they see me. I can't even face staying in the armored army's barracks. The secret police from the Secret Investigation Bureau know I had contact with. Well, anyway, they constantly block the barracks trying to question me. They blocked me in so I couldn't leave, and when I finally managed to sneak out over the wall to drink away my sorrow, I lost my wallet. I'm so damn miserable. Sir, please calm down. Your wallet might not be lost yet. I'll have someone help look. Glancing sympathetically at his recently cleaned counter, now smeared with slimy streaks, the receptionist hurriedly called a colleague to handle the lost property case. What? Someone else claimed my wallet. Hearing someone had taken his wallet, the little golden-haired man wiped his nose with his hand and roared angrily with red-rimmed eyes. Who? Who dared to take my stuff? Tell me the name. I'm going to beat him up today. The claim log states the name was Leon Lane. Who? Who took it? Leon Lane. After repeating Leon's name, the receptionist, accompanied with a cheerful expression, said, We verified it. The badge they had was genuine, and he is indeed the current Duke of Lionheart. He also reported losing a wallet, and the features matched yours, so we… Mr. Steven, perhaps you should think back carefully and see whether you might have mistaken the design and confused His Grace's wallet with your own. Boo-hoo. I'm so damn miserable. Chapter 429. Debt's Pouch. Director. Holding a wallet whose origin was unknown, Leon returned to the Purification Bureau and immediately knocked on the director's office door. Speaking with a solemn expression, there is indeed something wrong with the pink mystery. The Aquarius director must have arranged some kind of backup there. And if I'm not mistaken, the wallet you asked me to investigate was probably taken by that Gemini Subbureau Level 1 cleaner named Nicole. What? What did you say? After hearing Leon's words, the red-haired director, who was fiddling with an empty wallet, paused slightly, then with a look of surprise said, You actually found something out? No. What I mean is, are you really sure? 9 times out of 10. Recalling the intelligence from the aberrant names register, Leon recounted his observations and experiences, then concluded gravely, We can't be completely sure yet, but when Jerry returns, if even he can't find that wallet, then we can basically be certain. After all, the secret tail in that female reporter's hand could conveniently erase the aura of items. I think she is very suspicious. By the way, Director, what exactly is in that wallet? That wallet contained my newly received salary. But now it no longer matters. After listening to Leon's account of his experiences, the red-haired director's fox-like eyes subconsciously squinted, detecting some inconsistencies. Although she certainly had drunk too much, forgetting the wallet shouldn't have happened and might be influenced by some special anomalous object. Additionally, because she had boasted in front of Leon earlier that day, she hadn't planned to drink much that night. However, a new batch of wine that suited her taste too well had just arrived at the pink mystery, leading to her losing control and drinking too much, resulting in the loss of the wallet. Meanwhile, the only one capable of retrieving the wallet immediately, Jerry, was out on a task due to an unexpected incident in Merino County and currently not in the bureau. The smell of conspiracy was strong. After twisting her hair around her finger a couple of times, the red-haired director made a few vague remarks, frowning as she pondered the real goal of the enemy. The direct target seemed to be stealing her wallet, but the wallet really only had money. It's not worth their effort, so their real goal was likely the ensuing impact of her not having money. Considering that on Aquarius's side, there was a gate of the other world that could briefly peek into the future, they must have seen that after she ran out of money, she did something they found exploitable. So what would she definitely do after running out of money? Borrow money from Emma like yesterday? Use the debts pouch like today? Or go to the usual taverns to charge it on her account? It's strange. These things are quite normal. Which one would make her vulnerable? Perhaps try doing all of them once? The red-haired director, thinking to the point of a headache, unconsciously fidgeted with the empty wallet in her hand, continuously pressing the clasp. Noticing her actions, Leon raised an eyebrow slightly, recalling the wallet that had suddenly appeared in his possession, then reached to tap the cuff and took out the bulging wallet. By the way, apart from the aberrant names register, I encountered another matter that might be related to an anomalous object. Putting the wallet on the table, Leon shared its magical origin simply and then said worriedly, "You know how unlucky I am. This kind of good fortune doesn't happen to me, so I think, what's this? Touch it and you'll know." After tossing the empty wallet in her hand to Leon, the red-haired director calmly opened the little golden-haired wallet, took out 5 gold wheels, pocketed them, and then handed the wallet back. "When the next month's salary is issued, I will give you an extra 10 gold wheels, so remember to help me return the money then." "Okay." "Oh? Wait, what's this all about? Why didn't I understand a thing?" With a puzzled frown, Leon touched the empty wallet in his hand as the red-haired director had instructed. ZZZ. Name, debts pouch, wealth. Appearance. An unusually old-fashioned men's leather wallet, with formerly sturdy leatherwork that's been completely worn through, allowing one to stick a finger through the hole at the bottom and into the wallet. Ability. Unexpected fortune. Cost. After acquiring an unexpected fortune through this anomalous object, one must return double the amount to the original owner. File. This is a genuine ancient anomalous object from the primordial country of Ampula. With a long history of over 500 years, it has been kept in the warehouse of the Virgin Branch since it was acquired by the 4th director of the Virgin Branch of the Purification Bureau. 4 years ago, having spent her salary and unable to buy wine, Olivia, then director of the Virgin Branch, found this anomalous object that no one had touched for a long time in the warehouse and subsequently used it repeatedly for small loans. Over 4 years, she used this anomalous object a total of 49 times, borrowed 1,023 gold wheels, picked up 25 wallets, excavated 4 secret cellars containing private property, and redeemed 15 winning tickets. Evaluation. A severely underestimated anomalous object. Instead of paying back double each time, its real use should be to borrow a large sum at a critical moment and never return it. Corrosion value, 2.3. So, the wallet I just handed over was something you borrowed using this thing? No wonder the process was so absurd. After reading the description of the debts pouch, Leon couldn't help but smack his lips, then muttered in bewilderment, "What a bizarre, anomalous object, and using it requires returning double. Compared to borrowing from it, wouldn't it be better to take a proper loan from the bank? My annual salary is just over 600 gold wheels. The interest paid after using this thing to borrow money is already equivalent to my 2 years' salary. In theory, borrowing from a bank is indeed better." The red-haired director shrugged and said, "But I'm terribly slow at repaying, and the major banks in the capital city have blacklisted me. The remaining ones willing to lend me money don't want repayment. They want me to owe them a favor. So, it's better to use this to borrow money. Wouldn't you agree?" "Agree? My foot. Your salary is so high. If you could just drink a bit less, wouldn't you have more than enough money?" "Oh well, everyone faces tight times once in a while. Just handling emergencies." Glancing at Leon, who was pulling a face, the red-haired director sat upright, having successfully borrowed 5 gold wheels, and gravely shifted the topic. "Besides, if I'm not mistaken, within a week, Something unpleasant will surely happen, so you must be extra careful recently. Why? Because of Jerry's return time. The red-haired director squinted her eyes and tapped the table with her fingers. If it weren't for your unexpected disclosure, when Jerry comes back in a week, he would start helping me find the missing wallet. Subsequently, being unable to detect the wallet's aura would alert me to the issue. So, reasoning backward, if they want to do something without alerting me, they must complete it within this week. Therefore, I suspect something will definitely happen in the week before Jerry returns. Chapter 430. Ambushed. Would something happen within a week? After hearing the judgment from the red-haired director, Leon instinctively nodded but, upon further thought, realized something wasn't quite right. Wait, your wallet? Are you the one who lost your wallet yesterday? Damn it, I was so focused on pondering the Aquarius director's motives that I forgot about this. I can explain. Seeing Leon's eyes shift from surprise to suspicion, then to recollection, and finally settling on an expression of sudden realization, the red-haired director awkwardly cleared her throat and tried to explain. Actually, you really did get drunk and lost your wallet? And, feeling embarrassed to tell me directly, you tried to convince me to help you find it, but actually found nothing, and it was all just a coincidence? No. How did you figure it out so quickly? Did someone tell you something? It wasn't entirely a coincidence. Looking at Leon's unfriendly expression, the red-haired director, for once, blushed slightly, feeling a bit guilty, and explained with hand gestures, I vaguely sensed that something was off. Yeah, not much, but a little bit. So it really was just as the black goat guessed. Seeing the red-haired director's tiny gesture, Leon couldn't help but darken his expression. However, recalling her past kindness towards him, he held back and didn't start ranting, instead saying in a deep voice, Director, in the future, shouldn't you drink a little less? I'll try. Try my ass. Seeing the red-haired director's slightly dodgy gaze, Leon understood that her promise would likely only last a week. He sighed but didn't say anything further. After all, the red-haired director's situation was rather special. She needed to use alcohol occasionally to numb herself temporarily from the guilt caused by slaughter blood hair. Forcing her to quit drinking completely would be a form of torture. All right, drink if you want. Leon shook his head helplessly and stopped pursuing the matter of her tricking him into finding the wallet, instead gently advising, but don't ever get so drunk again that you don't notice your wallet being taken. Keep some alertness, or else if you get caught off guard, it might be dangerous. Watching Leon, who seemed a bit angry but didn't hold on to it, and instead let it go, the red-haired director found her heart skip a beat and couldn't help but hiss. Hiss? Are you okay? Oh? What kind of question is that? How could anything be wrong with me? I mean, aren't you angry? The red-haired director blinked and said, if it were Emma, knowing I screwed things up because of drinking and tricked her into running errands for me, she'd probably be mad for a long time and demand I pay her back or something. Aren't you mad? Of course I'm mad, but not that mad. Looking at her bright red hair, Leon slightly shook his head and said, Senior Emma and I are different. She might know about the existence of slaughter blood hair, but probably doesn't understand the extent of the pain it brings to the user. I've touched your hair and know what this anomalous object represents. Although you have various flaws, you already do well enough. Forcing you to stay sober and endure the pain while protecting humans, always shielding me from harm, would be too selfish of me. No one is born with the obligation to bear these burdens, so drink if you want. But in potentially dangerous situations, be mindful of the degree, and don't give people the chance to hurt you. After all, the whole Virgo branch still needs you to hold it up. Be sure to stay safe. After hearing Leon's response, the red-haired director paused for a short moment, then sniffled hard, holding her heart with both hands as she looked deeply moved. Oh, you've moved me to tears. No one's ever been so understanding of me like this before, always considering my well-being, not blaming me for tricking you, even trying to find reasons from within yourself. I'm so touched I almost wanted to offer myself to you. Oh right, little Leon, since you're supportive, I just thought about it carefully and realized 5 gold wheels might not be enough, so can you bring out that wallet and let me borrow 5 more gold wheels?
No.
Hearing the first half, Leon felt a bit embarrassed, but when he heard the latter part, his face darkened as he said, I just changed my mind. You keep drinking like this, and you'll crash sooner or later. Also, if you don't mind, I'll take that debts pouch too. Leaving it with you is a waste. I'm leaving work. Go, go. Stingy man. With a smile, the red-haired director watched Leon leave, then sat alone at her desk for a while before getting up to open the office window. She leaned against the windowsill looking outside, and at the point where her gaze fell, a stubborn tightwad whom she wouldn't lend money to had just walked out of the police department's bounds, flagging down a coach waiting by the roadside. Watching Leon negotiate with the coachman, agreeing on a price before getting on the coach, then leaving in the direction of Bridge Street, the red-haired director, her eyes bright, wrinkled her nose before turning back and taking a large swig from the bottle on her desk. A kid who just started growing hair trying to act macho in front of me? Humph. All right, drop me off here. Calculating the exact distance from the police department to his home, ensuring it came just before the meter ticked over, Leon tapped on the coach window and shouted in the boiler's rumbling sound, Time to stop. I'll walk the rest of the way home. If you keep driving, the extra distance is a freebie, and I won't pay for it. SK. Aren't people working in the municipal district supposed to not bargain? How come there's someone as stingy as you? Hearing Leon's words, the coachman, who had wanted to drive a bit further, clicked his tongue and pulled the steam coach over to the curb with a sullen face. Here you go, just the right amount. Handing the pre-calculated money to the coachman, Leon, who successfully saved a copper wheel, got off the coach with a smile and walked in the moonlight towards Happiness Apartment. Still at it, old man? He greeted the sturdy, big old man holding large shears and staring intently at him in the garden. And after the curly-haired old lady came and bound the man with yarn, Leon, in good spirits, had a brief chat with the superintendent and proceeded upstairs with a smile. Home sweet home. Having spent the morning handling task reports, the afternoon gathering and eliminating evidence of the rebels attacking the boarding tower, and even working overtime to search for a wallet in the evening, Leon, after a busy day, stretched his tired body and walked towards the place he called home. His face relaxed, and just as he reached the 6th floor, the previously closed door opened, revealing, as usual, a lovely face smiling warmly at him under the familiar warm light. Anna, I'm back. Why is it you? Why shouldn't it be me? Pulling the collar of her silk robe up Darling, you're back from work. Do you want to shower first? Or eat first? Or do you want to? Chapter 431. Came prepared. Originally, I intended to have dinner first, but after seeing you, I just wanted to go back and work overtime. Princess Veronica. Interrupting the princess's teasing inquiry, Leon's expression dropped, full of speechlessness. Stop fooling around. Okay? How did you suddenly end up in my house? Where's Anna and the others? Anna and the kids are asleep. Besides, I'm your fiancé. Isn't it odd for me to be in your house? Seeing the respectful distance in Leon's eyes, Princess Veronica blinked and pretended to be hurt, saying, Darling, why are you being so cold to me? Could it be you have someone else outside? Asterisk, I don't know if that counts, but we're definitely innocent. Why did you suddenly come to my house and ambush me, and dressed so casually? Asterisk. Trying hard to control himself from raising his line of sight to avoid looking at some impolite spots, Leon spoke with a bit of a headache. Princess Veronica, between us, even though we are apart more often than together, our relationship is still strong. Proactively linking arms with Leon, she pulled his speechless self into the house and pressed him to sit by the table, pointing to the dishes with plates covering them on the table. Hurry, eat. These are personally watched by Anna as she prepared them for you, and I tried a good mouthful of each. They taste really good. Asterisk, I thought you prepared them yourself, so just watching counts as contributing, right? Besides, why do I feel like you seem a bit strange today? Looking, asterisk, oddly happy? Watching the oddly exuberant princess feel inexplicably buoyant despite his cold shoulder. And smiling regardless, Leon hesitated for a moment before settling honestly by the table. Your Highness, why did you come to see me today? What's the matter? Look at you. Why can't I visit without a reason? Princess Veronica adjusted her loose nightdress, sitting elegantly opposite Leon, resting her chin on her hand with a gentle smile. By the way, I indeed have a few happy things to tell you. Go ahead and eat, and I'll tell you while you do, all right? As she moved, the loose silk sleeve of her nightdress slipped slightly, dropping to her elbow, revealing a small section of her dazzlingly white arm. Paired with the princess's flower-like smiling face and the subtly exposed softness at the neckline, it made Leon's heart skip a beat. He quickly averted his gaze, focusing intently on the food on the table. His reaction wasn't bad. It wasn't in vain that I specially ordered this half-sized larger nightdress. Playfully using her finger to tug the deliberately loosened sleeve, exposing even more of her arm, she then inwardly drew back her arm, making the already ample curve more pronounced. With a smile, Princess Veronica said, "There have been many delightful things recently, but the thing that pleases me most is that our wedding is set. We will be wed the day after tomorrow at noon, and I came to fetch you today." What? Hearing Princess Veronica's words, Leon abruptly trembled all over while drinking his soup, nearly swallowing half a bowl of warm fish soup down into his lungs. Cough. Cough, cough. You. What did you say? Cough, cough, cough. Oh dear. There's plenty of soup. Why are you drinking so hastily? Walking around the table to the choking Leon's side, she lightly patted his back, a glimmer of cunning flashing in the princess's eyes. Then she looked regretful. Seeing you so excited makes me truly happy. But, if only this were true. Asterisk revenge. This is definitely revenge. Revenge for how I was cold to you earlier. Asterisk. After catching his breath, realizing he had been toyed with, Leon frowned, preparing to demand an explanation, only to see a small shiny fork with a piece of fish being held up to him. The princess, who had just been sitting opposite, had already slipped onto the chair beside him under the pretext of patting his back, smiling as she tried to feed him. Ah, you. Feeling the warmth emanating from the mature, abundant body beside him, Leon, overwhelmed, quickly shifted away, creating distance from this tempting source of heat. He then grabbed the fork. Don't cough. No need, I can do it myself. Whatever you say. Seeing Leon's embarrassed expression, the princess understood she had teased him to the brink, and any further might get her pushed away. So she gave in, letting Leon take the fork, and with a teasing smile, she said, "By the way, do you still want to know why I'm so happy?" Not getting a response from Leon after 2 seconds, Princess Veronica straightened up, sighing with a bit of disappointment. If you don't want to hear it, then sitting here is meaningless for me. How about..." Hearing this, a flicker of emotion crossed Leon's face. "How about you leave? How about I continue feeding you?" Please don't, I do still want to hear what you have to say. Humph. Captivating. With an unrestrained sly smile after accomplishing her goal of teasing, the princess sat up straight, smiling with gleaming eyes. "Then I'll tell you. Have you heard about the Marquis of Gold Droplet?" The Marquis of Gold Droplet? Recognizing the familiar name, Leon's expression slightly shifted and then nodded. "I heard something. He recently drowned accidentally, right?" "Yes, that's him." Although the weather had warmed significantly recently, the nights were still a bit chilly. And while the silk nightdress adorned her figure beautifully, it left much to be desired in terms of warmth. Unintentionally curling up her body and tucking her limbs in tightly for warmth, her nose slightly red from the cold, the princess joyfully recounted. He was the tax secretary in the Ministry of Finance, second only to the Minister of Finance, always involved in the Ka Army Department's budget, and exploiting craft guilds, using the kingdom's budget to fill those. Let me put it this way, he was a terrible man, very bad indeed. He was indeed a wretched person in every sense. Nodding emphatically, Leon curiously asked, "So, you're happy because he died?" "Not entirely." Blowing on her palms to warm them, Princess Veronica shook her head. "Rather than his inexplicable drowning, I would have preferred to personally see him imprisoned, punished for his past deeds. But this works too. Even if I had managed to topple him, having him truly confess would have been difficult. Plus, his vacant position opened a breach in the Ministry of Finance. Without his obstruction, many previously stagnant reforms have begun to show the prospect of progress. If part of the taxation rights can be diverted, those harsh, complex taxes can be tidied up to avoid. Leon, are you interested in this? Would you prefer we talk about something else? Looking at the princess, curled on her chair from the cold but with bright eyes, Leon hesitated slightly, then removed his coat and draped it over her, shaking his head. "No need. I am actually quite interested in this. Continue, but keep it down a bit. Don't wake Anna and the others." Seeing Leon finally remember to drape a coat over her after her hints, Princess Veronica gave him a teasing glance and then leaned against him with a greatly moved look. "You're so sweet, let me continue. Oh, have you heard about the boarding tower being attacked?" Chapter 432. Kidnapping Skills Max. The boarding tower was attacked. How could I not know about that? I have a bit of understanding about it, Leon said tentatively, glancing at the enthusiastic princess in his arms. "My friends at the Department of Police told me they've been working themselves crazy with overtime lately. Many clerical staff have been drawn into daily patrols, searching for the boarding tower attacker and the lost items from the Kingdom of Kralik. Has this affected you too?" "Greatly." The princess nodded slightly, frowning. "The suspects attacking the boarding tower have been mostly identified. They're likely the rebels who attempted to assassinate me multiple times and set fire to Lowther Arcade. All their previous activities combined weren't as troublesome as this incident. This time they've made such a big deal that the Kingdom of Kralik keeps putting pressure on us. If we can't produce results that satisfy them in a month or two, it will surely affect normal trade. However, the burning of the boarding tower is not entirely a bad thing." At this point, the princess sighed with a slightly complex expression. "Since early last year, I have been collaborating with the Minister of Defense to reform the military, cutting excess troops and reducing miscellaneous expenses, and replacing outdated military equipment. Even with the support of your Ryan family, progress has been slow, facing resistance beyond my imagination. However, the boarding tower incident has somehow reignited many of my previously blocked reform proposals. I guess the burning of the heavily guarded boarding tower finally made some people feel the crisis, and they had to relinquish some of their swallowed interests to ensure their stability. Some people are just like that. Unless they're freezing or starving, they'll continue to lay in the car with their eyes closed. Only when the cold air drafts through the car window, chilling their lips blue, will they reluctantly get out and give a push." After venting her grievances about the short-sightedness of the kingdom's upper echelons, which had bottled up inside her these past days, the princess felt somewhat relieved. "Dear, you're so sweet." She snuggled back into the warm embrace behind her, warming her body and Veronica. The princess took Leon's hand and looked up, blinking. "I've kept these words in my heart for so long, but it's not appropriate to tell anyone else. Luckily, there's you who can listen. When do you plan to marry me?" Wait, how did the topic turn back to this? Feeling a sudden prickle at the back of his head from the abrupt talk of marriage, Leon pushed back with a headache. "Well, Princess Veronica, I've thought it over these past few days, and I realized that we might not actually be suitable, so about the engagement before, can we—" "Okay." "Oh? What did you say? You agreed? So easily?" Hearing the princess's straightforward answer, Leon was slightly taken aback, feeling a slight relief accompanied by an inevitable twinge of disappointment. "As I said before, regarding the relationship between us, the final decision is yours. I won't insist." With a slight withdrawal of her smile, the princess, who just leaned against Leon, sat up straight, her gaze lowered, speaking in a calm tone. Moreover, even with my special status, I'm a normal woman. I also have my self-respect. While I am indeed fond of you and willing to approach you actively time and again, I still have my boundaries. Leon, I have never liked forcing others. Since you've made your decision, then I too should let go. If at this point I still cling on, it would be shameful, and I cannot bring myself to do such a thing. Sorry. Feeling the slightly cool hand of the princess in his palm, Leon couldn't help but feel a surge of deep guilt. The root of this issue stemmed from him. Though Princess Veronica did have other motives, she had always been very proactive, whereas he, daunted by her status as a princess and the troubles this status brought, continually pushed her away. Whatever the calculation, he owed her, not the other way around. I apologize. After sincerely apologizing, Leon tried to make amends. If in the future, there won't be any future, you probably won't see me again. Princess Veronica slightly turned her head, avoiding Leon's gaze, then reached to wipe her eyes, saying softly with tears in her eyes, "Without the marriage contract between us, I'll likely be married off. It could be to the kingdom of Morna, the kingdom of Hyzen, or the kingdom of Orlison. In any case, I won't be staying in the capital city. In the future, I'll most likely be marrying someone I've never met, and then, due to the interests between the kingdoms, I will be neglected by my future husband, living a lonely life in a castle colder than your heart. If one day, the country I marry to wears with the kingdom, I might also be humiliated, even handed over to the gallows by my husband, cursing my miserable fate, dying despairingly and painfully. Don't worry about it, this has nothing to do with you. My tragic life is not your doing, so you don't have to feel guilty. I just..." After offering Leon 2 weak reassurances, large teardrops rolled from Princess Veronica's eyes. She hurriedly wiped them away, but they only seemed to increase. I just feel a bit regretful." Realizing she couldn't stop the tears, Veronica gave up, turning her head away and biting her lip, speaking with a trembling voice. It seemed like everything was just starting to get better. Military reform had begun to proceed. I was addressing the issues with the Department of Road Administration, and the long-stuck fiscal problems had started to untangle recently. If only things could proceed step by step in this direction, I'd have a chance to completely transform the kingdom, so ordinary people wouldn't live so hard and the kingdom could regain its strength, with nobody dying from warfare. After I leave, it will be difficult to find someone to take these matters over. Joshua is inadequate, and if the kingdom fell into his hands, the Minister of Finance and the Queen would dominate, continuing to exploit ordinary people as tools for nobles and big merchants. Boo. It was just about there. It's okay, you don't have to worry. After wiping her eyes again, the tearful princess clenched her fists. Her eyes red, gently said, "No one will blame you, you have your own life. No need to marry a particularly beautiful but unloved woman for anyone's happiness. Leon, you don't have to feel guilty. Whether it's me, soon to live a lonely life, or those losing a chance to change their fate because of my departure, none of us will blame you. Why are you holding my hand? Have you regretted it? Do you want to hold my hand and walk through life together again?" I admit defeat. How can you say so much nonsense with a straight face? With a dark expression, Leon pried open the princess's fingers and took out the wrinkled onion slice she was holding, then remarked with a headache, "Your Highness, can't you be a bit more sincere?" Chapter 433. At your own risk. I was already very sincere. After wiping the onion juice from the corner of her eye with the back of her hand, Princess Veronica blinked her reddened eyes and looked Leon directly in the eye, speaking honestly. If I truly wanted to use those words to force you into agreeing to marry me, I wouldn't have said them to your face. Instead, I would have arranged some coincidences for you to discover on your own. Whether it's letting you hear about my father's arrangements for me from others or having you encounter Joshua several times while interacting with the Minister of Finance and the Queen, You would have figured it all out yourself without even knowing my involvement. The reason I didn't do so and chose to speak to you about these matters as openly as possible is out of respect for you and to demonstrate my sincerity. Asterisk, it seems like there might be some truth to that. Asterisk. As Leon frowned in contemplation, Princess Veronica placed the onion slice she was holding onto the table and said, with a somber expression, Leon, what I said just now was entirely true. Without you, it's highly likely that after Joshua comes of age, I would be married off to a man I don't love, spending my life far away. Once I'm gone, these difficult reforms we've pushed through will mostly be halted except for those that maintain the royal family's rule. The entire kingdom will revert to a stagnant state. The reason I make this judgment isn't out of arrogance, thinking I'm the only one who can change everything. It's because I know my father and brother too well, and I understand what kind of people they are. For my father, the rule of the royal family surpasses everything. The true importance lies not in the kingdom as a whole but in whose hands the kingdom is controlled. Joshua has been deeply influenced by him and pampered by the queen. I don't think he can become a qualified king. Asterisk, indeed. Joshua's mind and character really aren't suited for being king. Asterisk. So, I hope you'll reconsider. Looking at the silent Leon, Princess Veronica, while guessing his thoughts, squeezed his hand with earnestness in her eyes and pleaded, I know it's unfair to you, but a marriage with you is truly the last opportunity for me, and even for this country. While it may seem alarmist, I truly believe that without you, whether it's my life or the country's future, everything will inevitably slide into the abyss. I'm really out of options. Yeah. I'm begging you, don't just push me away, okay? I won't force you. If you want to refuse but can't say it, we can approach this differently. After adjusting her coat, her face slightly flushed, the princess straddled Leon, wrapped her arms around his back, then buried her face in his shoulder and whispered into his ear, no matter what, the final decision is yours. Leon, if you still want to refuse, steel your heart and push me away. If you can't bear for me to marry someone else or haven't decided yet, then stay as we are. Don't push me away. If you stay silent, I'll take it as agreement to this approach. I'll start counting down. 5. Asterisk, so, should I push her away or not? Asterisk. 4. 3. 2. As the countdown closed in, Leon instinctively raised his hand, grasped Princess Veronica's shoulder, and subconsciously pushed slightly. But at that moment, her hands, locked behind his back, tightened sharply, intertwining with full strength, her slender fingers turning white. Feeling this intensity, Leon hesitated in pushing her away, concerned he might hurt her, and the princess's final countdown, filled with delight, echoed in Leon's ears. 1. Not pushing away means agreeing. Once you've agreed, you're not allowed to go back on it. Asterisk, even though, why does it feel like I've been cornered? Asterisk. Let's go, time to rest. After climbing off the somewhat hesitant Leon, the princess shyly glanced at him, then gently pulled him up from the chair. Her soft and slightly cool finger traced a teasing circle in his palm. Do you want to come in? No, definitely can't go in. With this current situation, if I go inside today, I'm afraid I'll be devoured with no room for regret. Who knows, we might end up with our firstborn next year. I'll stay out here for now. Hastily withdrawing his hand, Leon averted his gaze and coughed awkwardly. I still have, some things to think about. I'll sleep on the sofa tonight. That's not okay, is it? Secretly letting out a breath herself, Princess Veronica nodded lightly, then with a twinkling smile, said, If Anna wakes up in the middle of the night and finds you on the sofa, she'd certainly have a poor opinion of me as her sister-in-law. Why don't you just come in? Enough already. Seeing the princess, who clearly wasn't prepared herself, continue to tease him, Leon took a deep breath, squinting slightly as he warned, If you keep going on, bear the consequences. Did the little man who I easily kept in check dare to challenge me? Hearing Leon's warning, the princess raised her finely trimmed brows, then provocatively pushed out her full chest, smiling as she replied, "Really? What exactly do you mean by bearing the consequences? Could you show me? You're the one saying this." Hearing the challenge, Leon squinted his eyes, then, amidst the princess's surprised yelp, hefted her onto his shoulder and carried her inside. Before long, a series of panicked pleas echoed in the room. "Wait, are you serious? No, no, no. Aren't we going too fast? Ouch. Let's just stop here. Let me prepare a bit more. All right, Leon, I was wrong. I really was wrong. No, no, no. Don't. MMM. From then onward, everything fell into place as it should, and 10 months later, with a baby on the way, they were harmoniously married, their relationship loving. 2 kids in 3 years, 3 kids in 5 by 7 years. No, 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 that's plenty. Truly enough. We really can't have more. Glancing out the window where 2 teams of boys and girls were playing soccer on the royal palace lawn, she looked at her husband, who appeared as handsome as that night, only now with a mustache, showing maturity. Having been crowned queen for several years, Veronica quickly tightened her nightgown, closed the gaping neckline, and placed a hand against the chest of the adult Leon, begging, "I've been queen for so many years, but 9 out of 10 were spent pregnant. You have to let me rest for a few months. No, no, no. I really can't do it anymore. Why is your chest soft? Ah." As Queen Veronica pondered, pinching her husband's soft chest muscles, the adult Leon suddenly blushed and, like a maiden, let out a squeal. "Sister Veronica, you shouldn't touch like that. Hurry and wake up. Sister Veronica, wake up." Realizing the situation, the princess blinked hard, and the soft-chested husband before her wavered, transforming into Anna, who was covering her chest shyly. Underneath her lay the large custom-made bed ordered by Leon. Now a small sofa in Leon's apartment, with her wrapped in a blanket, sleepily lying on the sofa. So it was a dream. Sorry. Shaking her head to clear away the lingering mature-rated dream, the princess, her hair in disarray, sat up calmly. She then cast aside the blanket and gave Anna a gentle smile, asking with composure, "I just had a rather strange dream. Anna, what time is it?" "It's already 9 o'clock. Breakfast is on the table and, are you really?" Covering her chest and taking a small step back, Anna's eyes flickered slightly, yet she couldn't suppress her curiosity as she inquired, "Are you really planning to have 2 soccer teams worth?" Chapter 434. Trouble has broken out. "Leon, you're in trouble." The female officer, who had developed even darker circles under her eyes, slammed the tray on the table with a loud clang, then sat down heavily across from Leon, whispering with annoyance in her eyes, "I already know, you were the one who attacked the boarding tower." "Oh." After a few seconds of silence, Leon speared half a piece of meat pudding with a fork and placed it on the female officer's plate, then poured half of his soup into her bowl. "Sorry for causing you trouble." "And then what? That's it?" After waiting for a while without hearing more, the female officer, gritting her teeth in anger, couldn't help but snap, "Is that all? You have nothing else to say to me?" Today's pudding is made with eye fillet. It has an excellent texture, and it's topped with Aunt Diana's special sauce. I was worried you wouldn't have time to eat because of overworking, so I got 2 extra pieces. Don't play dumb. That's not what I'm asking about." Stabbing the meat pudding fiercely with a fork, the female officer leaned forward and said with a malicious tone, "Spit it out. What's really going on? Or I'm going to arrest you right now. Also, damn it, why are you still wearing that old coat? Just because you wear the same clothes as the suspect. I've received several reports. Can't you get a new one?" "Huh?" Leon was taken aback, somewhat puzzled, and asked in return, "These clothes are fine, they're durable, dirt-resistant, and warm. To buy a new coat like it would cost more than a silver wheel." Plus, I saw on my way to work that out of 10 people on the street, 3 or 4 were dressed like me. Why would anyone report me because of that? There may be many wearing it on the street, but there aren't many in the police department, which makes it stand out. In any case, find the time to change your clothes. If someone reports you again, I'm not covering for you. After fiercely mashing the pudding into the rice, the female officer took a spoonful and ate it. As the savory meat juices spread in her mouth, her tense expression finally relaxed, and she nodded slightly. The taste is indeed quite good. What's really going on with the boarding tower? Spill it. Asterisk, even eating can't shut you up. Such a big deal, it would be odd if it did. Asterisk. Shaking his head slightly, Leon organized his words briefly, and with a serious face, he explained. Simply put, there was something very dangerous over there. If it wasn't dealt with, it would have caused big trouble, so I had to go. That's all. That's all. To be honest, it's not that I don't want to tell you, but the fewer people who know about this, the better. After taking a sip of soup, Leon spread his hands helplessly and said, You know, although both of us are with the police department and work in maintaining public order, our work content is completely different from ordinary police work. I can tell you this much only because of our relationship. Think about it, if you secret police received an assignment and discovered the Minister of Finance was colluding with enemy forces, betraying the kingdom by selling intelligence, and got arrested under the cover of night, if it were you, would you go around blabbing about it? Well, fie on that. Nodding in agreement, the female officer, once she realized, complained with some frustration. Okay, maybe you can't talk about the mission, but you got to just leave after doing your job, while I'm stuck here overworking like crazy. Except for the day when the city patrol returned, and I got to sleep soundly, this past week. I've only been getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep each day. Do you know how exhausting that is? Yes, you worked hard. Really hard. Forking a piece of salmon from the female officer's tray and popping it into his mouth, Leon looked at her heavily shadowed eyes with genuine remorse and couldn't help but suggest again. Seriously, if you're that tired, just take a nap in my office. After all, as you know by now, this is a case destined to have no resolution. There's no need to keep going at it. No way. The female officer snapped irritably after fiercely chewing a piece of fried chicken. Our secret investigation bureau isn't as easygoing as yours. We have plenty of cases to handle. We may not be able to continue investigating the boarding tower incident, but there are other cases. Once I'm done eating, I'm going to apply to transfer to another task force. By the way, do you know about the recent drowning of the Marquis? If I transfer, I should take over that case. Oh? What the? Why do you always take on this kind of work? What's wrong? After waiting for a while without Leon responding, the female officer looked up from her soup, instinctively flicking her pink tongue tip to wipe away the grease from her lips, and then said with surprise in her eyes, Why are you silent again? Asterisk, because I figured you'd end up overworking again, and certainly wouldn't find anything. As your friend who caused your overworking madness, I felt a bit guilty. Asterisk. Nothing. Giving the female officer a sympathetic look, Leon sighed and said, Good luck with that. I'm definitely going to succeed. After wrinkling her nose, the female officer huffed and replied, I'm an elite field officer in the Secret Investigation Bureau. If it weren't for concerns about being accused of advancing too fast with my achievements over the years, I could have already become a field inspector, perhaps even vying for the next director of the Bureau. As long as it's not one of your messed up cases, anything that comes my way can be solved. Regarding the Marquis case, although I haven't seen the files yet, I noticed several suspicious points from newspapers and am confident of cracking it. Yes, I believe in you, you'll do just fine. I've finished my meal, so I'll head off then. After awkwardly clearing his throat twice, Leon quickly finished the remaining food on his tray, then, driven by inner guilt, hurriedly left the police department canteen and returned to the Purification Bureau, intending to talk to the director about the female journalist issue. However, when Leon pushed open the door to the Purification Bureau, crossing the somewhat dim hallway, and was about to knock on the director's door, the door opened on its own first, and two somewhat familiar figures appeared before Leon. "Mr. Lyon, it's been a while." Extending a friendly hand to Leon, the naturally smiling senior investigator smiled gently and said, "You've probably heard about the Marquis, right? He was under the protection of the Central Bureau's word spirit, so as usual, we need to find related personnel and ask some basic questions. We hope we haven't disturbed your work." Chapter 435. The investigation begins. Was it still those same two investigators from before? Squinting slightly against the light, Leon recognized their faces and narrowed his eyes a bit, refraining from shaking the old investigator's outstretched hand. After the Ryan Blood Knight incident, it was they who investigated him and ultimately issued a report stating, "Extremely high level of danger, close monitoring suggested." The old man in front of him, who smiled with hidden daggers, even suggested in his review that Leon disregarded regulations, was deeply dissatisfied with the current rules, and would attempt to break free from the headquarters' control once he had the ability to do so. And that report, devoid of a single positive comment, was even seen by the Aquarius director, who brought it up in front of everyone at headquarters, nearly getting Leon into trouble with the brain-eating demon. Caused him a lot of hassle. "Heh, it seems Mr. Lyon isn't very welcoming of us." Having waited for a moment without getting a handshake from Leon, the old investigator wasn't embarrassed but smiled slightly and naturally withdrew his hand, then slightly apologetically stated, "Sorry, it's our duty to investigate potential violations. Even if it's not welcome, just like our work of clearing abnormalities, we must follow the rules to complete the investigation. After all, without us investigating and constraining those reckless cleaners, the world would inevitably turn into a chaotic playground for the evil god and demons. So sorry, even though you might feel wronged, and even though our questions may be annoying, please try to cooperate." Asterisk so many words. Was he preparing for a graduate exam? Asterisk. After shooting a glance at the old man who had said some unpleasant things about him, Leon frowned but said nothing, essentially agreeing to answer the questions and cooperate with the headquarters investigation. Meanwhile, the red-haired director, watching coldly from behind the desk, impatiently waved them away. "Take your questions outside. I'm busy here. Don't disturb my work." "All right." After nodding towards the red-haired director, the old investigator raised his arm and gestured towards the door. "Mr. Lyon, let's go straight to Miss Emma's office to talk. She's been waiting for us there for a while." "So they went to Senior Emma first before looking for me?" Watching this courteous and earnest old man, yet no matter what unable to be liked, Leon squinted his eyes and then turned away, heading to Senior Emma's office. And the somewhat annoyed female investigator, along with the older investigator who maintained a smiling face, followed him into Senior Emma's room filled with an array of instruments of torture. "Then let me begin the questioning." Forcefully pushing aside the skull-crushing hammer and canine-tooth pillory on the sofa, the young female investigator sat across from Leon and Emma, her face cold as she spoke. "First question. Did either of you know about Marquis Leonard's death?" "Spare us this nonsense." Interrupting the female investigator's questioning, Leon took out the black goat and placed it on the table with an expressionless face. "Given your prejudice against our Virgo branch, if you insist on wasting time with such questions, I will question the significance of this inquiry and request headquarters to send 2 new investigators." "You! All right, Aisha." Stopping the slightly flushed female investigator, the old investigator smiled and said, "Mr. Lyon and Miss Emma are indeed very busy. We can indeed be more flexible when asking questions, focusing primarily on the ones I've marked." "Fine." Biting her lip in frustration, the female investigator turned a page in her notebook and then, with an unpleasant look, stated, "First question. Did either of you plan to kill Marquis Leonard?" "We did." Then the second question. "Ha!" Looking at the freshly circled "deny" on her notebook, the female investigator blinked in confusion. Then, full of bewilderment, raised her head and asked, "What did you say?" "I said we both had plans to kill Marquis Leonard." and they were very strong. Confirming she hadn't misheard, the somewhat stunned female investigator instinctively turned to Emma for a denial, but was met with an entirely agreeing gaze from Emma. Asterisk huh. How could they just admit it like that? Can't they deny it a little? Asterisk. Bewildered by Leon's honesty, after being silent for several seconds, the female investigator, full of doubt, couldn't help but ask, why? Because he deserved it. After briefly explaining what Leonard had done, Leon, full of disdain, said, if he hadn't jumped into the lake, whether Senior Emma had become the director of a small branch or I had found the evidence to put him in jail, it would have been his death day. Drowning in the lake was even too good for him. Hearing Leon's words, Emma, recalling her deceased family and daughter, couldn't help but have a slight sheen of tears in her eyes, then nodded in agreement. Asterisk well, he did deserve to die, but that's not what I wanted to ask, right? I'm here to investigate you, although our job is to make you tell the truth. Isn't being this forthright a bit too much? Asterisk. Looking at her notebook full of questions designed to make Leon admit to wanting to kill Marquis Leonard, the female investigator reluctantly picked up her pen and crossed all of them out, then hesitantly said, then, where were you both on the night of his death? Do you have anyone to verify your alibis?
No.
Leon shook his head and replied, I was working overtime at the bureau, and Senior Emma was taking care of her daughter at home. Asterisk so no alibis either? Aren't you going to put up a little struggle? Asterisk. Seeing another 10 or so questions rendered useless, the female investigator, whose heavy blows had missed the mark twice already, then, third question, are you the ones who killed Marquis Leonard?
No.
Senior Emma shook her head slightly. Unfortunately, no. Leon's expression even held a hint of regret. Asterisk about how Leonard died. It was of course suicide. Asterisk. Asterisk although I made him jump into the river a few hundred times in dreams and had him executed 1,000 times over, I never so much as touched a finger of his nor seen his face with my own eyes. What does his jumping into the lake have to do with me? Asterisk. Seeing the honest duo in front of her finally not continuing to admit things, the female investigator, for some reason, let out a sigh of relief. She then straightened up, holding the pile of prepared questions, and somewhat excitedly asked, then how do you explain his sudden death? After all, both of you had motives to kill him, the ability to do so, and lacked alibis for that night, so please explain how. Dear daughter. At that moment, the black goat on the table, whose head was growing tired of listening, rolled its eyes and grinned broadly. Come over here. Let Daddy give you a hug. Oh? Bewildered by this remark, the female investigator pointed at her own nose, uncertainly asking, were you talking to me just now? Who else? Come on now. A little closer. Tooey. A potent smoker's spit flew out, smearing the back of the investigation form, as the black goat smirked coldly at the horrified female investigator. According to your logic, I have the motive to do something with your mom, the capacity to, and on the day your mom conceived you, I lacked an alibi. By your reasoning, wouldn't I be your wild dad? Chapter 436. Persuasive Eloquence. Looking at the female investigator whose face turned red with anger, almost breathless, Leon couldn't help but give a mental thumbs up to the black goat, deciding to buy it a few more packs of goth after work. Although the black goat's attack power was somewhat lacking, its verbal aggression was maxed out. He remembered a previous investigation where a similar scene occurred, leaving the investigator rolling their eyes, using it as a specialized tool against investigators. All right, Aisha. The old investigator glanced at the arrogant goat head in surprise before speaking up to mediate, gently advising, let's stop with the routine questions for now. After all, we haven't obtained any substantial evidence, and jumping right in like this is indeed somewhat presumptuous. Why don't you step out for some fresh air? I'll handle the rest. Okay. Hearing the elder investigator's advice, the female investigator clenched her fist and then nodded slightly with pursed lips, leaving the office with a look of unwillingness. After she stormed out, The mild-mannered old investigator sat up straight, looking Leon in the eye, and said peacefully, "Lord Leon, if I'm not mistaken, the death of the Goldcrest Marquis has a direct connection with you, doesn't it?" "Of course not." Leon, who had prepared mentally, instinctively wanted to shake his head in denial but found his tongue slightly rigid, unable to move at all despite his effort. "Looks like you're about to lie again." The old investigator, slightly parting his lips to show Leon his tongue glowing with a faint white light, smiled and said, "After returning from you last time, I felt my skills were lacking, so I applied to the main bureau for an anomalous object capable of discerning lies and used it to replace my original tongue. During conversations with me, if your responses are lies, your tongue will be affected, preventing you from providing false answers. So please try to speak more honestly in our subsequent exchanges." An anomalous object for lie detection? After hearing the elder investigator's words, Leon involuntarily squinted and looked at his tongue. Though not clearly visible due to the angle, there seemed to be something resembling a suture in the middle of his tongue. The latter half of the elder investigator's tongue was completely normal, with no abnormalities. Yet the white, glowing front half appeared sun-dried, looking shriveled and shrunk, the tongue's surface barely intact while its underside was significantly shriveled, with dark green tongue veins bulging out, appearing quite ghastly. "Be careful. That's the tongue of truth." A slightly damp hand grasped his, and Senior Emma's gentle voice, through the contact of their hands, slipped into Leon's soul. "This thing is an anomalous object crafted by the fourth-generation Taurus director. He infiltrated the cemetery of the Church of True Word and exhumed the grave of their first Grand Speaker to remove this tongue from the body. The first Grand Speaker never told a single lie from birth to death, so using his tongue as an anomalous object forces others to answer truthfully as he did. Moreover, this thing requires very little consumption. As long as one has a bit of Leon value, they can use it. The only cost is needing to replace their own tongue, and its usage is limited. ZZZ. Through Emma Alman's detailed explanation, you've gained substantial intelligence about the tongue of truth, activating the heterochromatic badge, Materialist Soul, Crimson. Having understood the activation rules of the tongue of truth, your resistance to this anomalous object has significantly increased, allowing you to shield its deeper effects already. Tongue of truth. Huh? Scanning the popped-up prompt, Leon gripped Emma's hand back, and through their soul connection, asked, "What else? Is there more intelligence?" "There is, indeed. But what are you asking this for?" Emma blinked in slight confusion at Leon's question but, trusting Leon, quickly explained through their soul connection. "There's indeed more. According to the calculations of the fourth-generation Taurus director, when the total cumulative usage reaches the number of truths the Grand Speaker spoke in life, it will wither on its own. So, roughly 300 years ago, it was sealed by the director at the time, only taken out during very crucial moments. I don't know how he got it. Anyway, Leon, don't deal with him anymore. My Leon value is much higher than his, making this thing less effective on me, so let me handle the questions next." ZZZ. Through Emma Alman's detailed explanation, you've already managed to shield its deeply profound effects. "It's okay. Let me answer." Reassuringly patting Senior Emma's hand, Leon stretched his still somewhat stiff tongue, his accent slightly off but still fairly fluent, and said, "All right, I'll try to be more honest from now on. Besides, I didn't kill the Goldcrest Marquis, nor was I involved in any way. You really have the wrong person." The old investigator's eyebrows twitched at Leon's response, then immediately tensed the muscles in his jaw, trying hard to suppress the obviously nonsensical statement. However, no matter how hard he tried, even a visible small bulge appeared on his chin. Leon's words flowed more smoothly, even turning the tables, saying with a slightly disdainful expression, "Additionally, I don't know what's going on with you. Without any evidence, you boldly confronted me, accusing me with offensive questions, and even prepared a corresponding anomalous object. Yet no matter how meticulous you are, innocent people will always be innocent. Concerning the Goldcrest Marquis's drowning suicide, I feel no guilt whatsoever. Feel free to investigate all you want. Neither I nor Senior Emma laid a finger on him. But trying to pin things on us without any evidence, I suspect you're connected to Aquarius. After this conversation, I'll immediately file a complaint with the main bureau to thoroughly investigate your background and movements. No way. Aren't you aware of what you did? How dare you investigate me? The old investigator, his tongue nearly twisted off but unable to suppress Leon's righteous speech, tightened his jaw muscles, beginning to question whether the tongue of truth was broken. Before coming, he had already investigated the Verdant Feather estate and secretly used the chronometer pocket watch to trace the events of that day. The righteous-looking scoundrel in front of him on that night knocked out the guards and sneaked into the estate, stood at the Goldcrest Marquis's door for over 10 minutes, and the Goldcrest Marquis had nightmares the entire night, drowning himself the next day. Damn it! If this matter is disconnected from him, I'd pull out the chronometer pocket watch and chew it up on the spot. Chapter 437. A flying kick. What's wrong? Cat got your tongue. Leon tested the range of the effect of the tongue of truth, finding most of its influence was blocked. Noticing that the less falsehood in his speech, the less the impact on his tongue, Leon switched to the performance master and scolded with a feigned outrage. I know you investigators hold a grudge against us at the Virgin Branch, so you love to exaggerate things in your reports. But this time you've gone too far. Are you actually trying to frame us for something this big? Do you have any idea what would happen if your framing succeeded? What a massive impact this would have on me and Senior Emma. Where is your conscience? Did a dog eat it? Heh. Maybe my conscience did get eaten by a dog, but a dog's stomach could never handle your thick skin. After desperately trying for a while and confirming that the tongue of truth had indeed lost its effect, the old investigator took a deep breath and started to quietly jot down notes truthfully in his notebook. What he had retrieved using the chronometer pocket watch was definitely the truth behind the Marigold Marquis's death. Compared to the easily influenced tongue of truth, what he saw firsthand in the past couldn't be fake. The Marigold Marquis had to have been killed by him. However, the chronometer pocket watch had a very high Leon value, far beyond what an ordinary investigator could wield, and it was also recorded in the Bureau, created by the Aquarius Director using the remnants of the King of Time as part of the Time Trinity. It should have been taken back by the Aquarius Director. So if he dared to bring it out, it would be like announcing to everyone that he had a connection with the Aquarius Director. A simple check would immediately expose his identity. Compared to the heavy news of him still being alive, killing a Marquis in violation was nothing. To escape the effects of the Directives List and the Death Realm Street Lamp, and to keep it hidden from the Purification Bureau, he had already shed all of his soul of evil. If the remaining part of the soul of goodness were also discovered, he'd truly have nothing left. Although the youngster in front of him had his own secrets and might obstruct his plans, it wasn't worth risking his life for him. Asterisk not worth it. Not worth it. Asterisk. Weighing the pros and cons in less than a second, the old investigator, or rather half of the Aquarius Director, suppressed his inner frustration. He then asked the pre-designed questions one by one with an emotionless face. Leon, maintaining his character, answered one question after another, mixing in some personal opinions and using plenty of vague, half-true statements to thoroughly diminish what little effect the tongue of truth retained. In the cooperative performance of both sides, this furious interrogation oddly ended in complete peace. The old investigator's notebook only held a heap of ambiguous replies and Leon's fervent declarations of loyalty to the Purification Bureau. That concludes the questioning for now. We will surely continue our investigation and come back to you once we have sufficient evidence. There's also another matter. Closing the notebook filled with Leon's nauseating loyalty to the Purification Bureau, the old investigator took out a document, handing it over without changing his expression. What is this? This is the dangerous situation discovered by the main bureau using hints from the Watcher's Palace, employing two temporal anomalous objects. Sickened by Leon's grandiose strings of lies, the old investigator spoke with a darkened face. Originally, it was supposed to be confirmed that you and Olivia weren't in collusion before showing it to her directly. But since our investigation wasn't detailed enough and wronged you, I have no face to meet her. Please, the two of you, hand it over directly. Watcher's Palace hint. Upon hearing the old investigator's words, Leon and Emma instinctively became serious, solemnly accepting the sealed document. Is the information in here for Olivia's eyes only, or can we look at it too? Looking at the tightly sealed document, Emma frowned and asked, also, tips from the Watcher's Palace are usually very important. Why not use the Celestial Sphere Mirror to contact Olivia directly, instead of delivering a paper document? I don't know about that. I'm just running an errand. The old investigator shook his head after Emma's inquiry. As for whether you can see it, the main bureau didn't specify, only tasked me to deliver this information to the Virgin Branch, so members of the Virgin Branch should be able to see it. Members of the Virgin Branch can see it? So, it might be a major task requiring the entire branch's participation. Understanding the significance of this document, Emma didn't dare to delay. After a couple of low-key instructions, she grabbed the document and hurried off, while Leon, who had just put on a pompous show, stood up comfortably to see the guest off, saying, "In that case, I won't walk you out any further. Please feel free to go." Watching Leon say he won't walk you out any further, yet only shifted slightly in his seat without bothering to escort him to the door, the old investigator couldn't help but laugh in anger, nodding slightly. Great. Just great. After taking one last long look at Leon, who had almost caused his death, the old investigator, who had kept a relatively kind demeanor despite provocation, finally indulged in a strange smile, saying with veiled meaning, "Mr. Lyon, I believe it won't be long before we meet again." Oh? Why did that sound like something a big bad villain would say? Wait a minute. Though finding nothing wrong, Leon, exposed to similar phrases like XXX, we have a long future ahead in his past life, instinctively felt something amiss and immediately attempted to stop him. Hold on. Is your name Camus? Why? Hearing Leon's words, the old investigator turned around and asked in surprise, "Has Mr. Lyon heard of my name somewhere before? It does sound a bit familiar. Let me think." Spouting some nonsensical chatter, Leon eagerly leaned over, placing both hands on the old investigator's shoulders to prevent any movement, and then exclaimed with eyes full of delight, "Oh, so it's you. Aren't you the one who—" Just as he was midway through speaking, Leon's right leg suddenly kicked up, using a secret combat move he learned from a policewoman. He swung his foot fiercely towards the old investigator's crotch. Remembering when the chief lost his wallet, he predicted that something might happen within a week, and soon after, this old man conveniently showed up, making him extremely suspicious. Moreover, that sentence of his just now reeked strongly of a villainous mastermind. No matter how he thought it over, something felt off, so he decided it was best to test it with a kick, regardless of any issue. Considering he had an undying body, and the chief's office wasn't far off, even if he somehow kicked the boss out, he probably wouldn't get killed, so the benefits outweighed the risks. This kick was absolutely the right move. Asterisk, why is he kicking me? Did I get exposed? Asterisk. When he noticed the leg hurtling toward his groin, the old investigator's eyes widened in shock, as chaotic thoughts flooded his mind like a tide. Impossible. Asterisk, my soul of goodness had been separated nearly 70 years, never once connecting with the Aquarius director. My clean, verifiable records over the last 50 years, never hinting at corruption, surely meant I couldn't have been exposed. Asterisk. But if I weren't exposed, why would he suddenly attack? Asterisk, could it be just because I wrote bad things about him in the past, and couldn't help but throw a hard word his way just now while leaving? Did he hold a grudge and ambush an old man like me? Kick me right in the nuts? Asterisk. Asterisk, no way. Is this kid actually that much of a brute? Asterisk. Unbelievably casting a glance at Leon, the old investigator felt the urge to lash out and blow this mangy mutt's brains out, just to see what was really inside his head. Yet, recalling his own objectives, thinking about the hassle of Leon's undying body and the watchful scarlet-haired lady just 20 steps away ready to pounce at the first sign of unusual activity, The old investigator could only bear the agony, biting his lip and trembling as he gingerly spread his legs. Chapter 438. A major operation. You guys. You're too much. Looking at the old investigator curled up on the carpet like a shrimp, clutching his legs desperately, the female investigator who burst in upon hearing the scream had her pretty face instantly turn livid with rage. Senior Camus is such a nice person. He's been offended by you several times and never held a grudge, even advising me not to bring personal emotions into work. And yet you treat him like this. Could it be that I felt it wrong just now? Seeing the old investigator twitching on the ground after being hit hard in the crotch, Leon hesitated slightly but still reached out to help him up, speaking with a guilty expression. Sorry, I might have misunderstood. Are you okay? Am I okay? Don't you already know if I'm okay or not? Hearing Leon's heartfelt inquiry, the old investigator, face covered in sweat, struggled to roll his eyes, his lips trembling as he said nothing, while the female investigator rushed over, supporting him and saying indignantly to Leon, "Get out of the way. What happened today? I will definitely report it to the headquarters." Seems it really was my mistake. Glancing at the old investigator who was still shaking in pain and couldn't even stand, Leon opened his mouth slightly, then bowed deeply towards him, full of apology. Sorry, I might have been a bit heavy-handed. Mainly because that parting line of yours just now reeked of a mastermind vibe. I wouldn't have been able to sleep tonight without testing you a bit. And, though I misjudged this time, you two, if you're not some villain big boss, why do you act so shady? What's going on? What happened to him? The commotion from the earlier scream and subsequent ruckus was quite large, not only alerting the cleaners who were not on field duties but even the red-haired director who came out of his office, curiously asking a question. You're just in time. Seeing the red-haired director come out of the office, the female investigator couldn't help but exclaim angrily, "You at the Virgo substation have gone too far this time. You actually kicked Senior Camus in there. Just you wait. Once we go back, I will definitely seek justice for Senior Camus." Threatening me? After hearing what the female investigator said, the red-haired director, who initially wanted to ask more, raised his brow slightly, then nodded indifferently and said, "All right then, don't let the door hit you on the way out. If you want to leave then hurry up. We have other things to do and no time to waste with you." Shifting his gaze away from the two investigators directly, the red-haired director clapped his hands forcefully, drawing everyone's attention and then solemnly announcing, "Those who are not on a mission, follow me to the meeting room on the second floor. We've got a big job coming up." The headquarters just sent a message. The position of the Dream Realm has shifted, and the location of the demonic soul abyss is about to overlap with the kingdom. After taking out more than a dozen marked maps from the folder brought by the old investigator and pinning them one by one on the intelligence board in the meeting room, the red-haired director, standing beside the intelligence board, spoke with a serious face. In the real world that overlaps with the demonic soul abyss, the connection between the body and the soul will be infinitely weakened, and Dream Realm creatures and related abilities will be greatly enhanced. According to the guidance from the Watcher's Palace, the Bai sect will hold a descent ritual, attempting to assist the King of Nightmares in invading reality and spreading nightmares across the entire kingdom. Our mission this time is to stop its descent. King of Nightmares? Hearing this somewhat familiar name, Leon was slightly taken aback, first glancing around at the solemn expression of his senior cleaners, then putting his hand on Emma's slightly tensed hand. Emma, this King of Nightmares trying to descend, isn't it the same evil god that was driven away by the royal ancestors and thus cursed the royal bloodline? Yes. Hearing Leon's inquiry through the soul, Emma nodded slightly, knowing he was somewhat lacking in these common knowledge areas, quickly holding Leon's hand to explain. The King of Nightmares is also called the Lord of Nightmares, one of the three gods of the dream worshipped by the Bai sect, and doesn't have a real entity. In recent years, it has mostly resided in the Dream Realm, with the demonic soul abyss as its abode in the Dream Realm. And compared to the stable material reality, the spiritual level of the Dream Realm is relatively elusive, so its position is not fixed, meaning the location of the demonic soul abyss also shifts from time to time. To put it simply, it's like the moon being too close to the ocean might affect the tides. The demonic soul abyss being too close to reality also causes some effects. At such times, the Bai Yi sect and the King of Nightmares will begin to act, attempting to invade reality and spread nightmares. Spread nightmares? Upon hearing this, Leon contemplated for a moment, then continued to ask, if one were to have a nightmare during such a time, would the consequences be serious? Extremely serious. Emma nodded, her expression somewhat grave. Having a nightmare at such a time is equivalent to entering the King of Nightmares' domain, and for the rest of your life, every time you sleep, you'll be plunged into endless nightmares, providing it with power until death. Particularly compatible souls with the dream realm may even be directly captured by the King of Nightmares, brought into the dream realm by its own hand. Once the remaining body dies, they will entirely become dream realm creatures, serving it as an eternal servant. Moreover, the soul quality of us cleaners is generally higher than that of regular humans, making it extremely likely to catch its attention in a nightmare and have our souls forcibly taken. Having our souls taken away would leave just an empty shell, wouldn't it? Upon hearing this, Leon couldn't help but continue asking, so how powerful is the King of Nightmares compared to the Goddess of Wealth? It's not a matter of strength but a matter of existential form. Emma shook her head and said, the King of Nightmares won't descend physically like the Goddess of Wealth. It only exists within the dreams of sentient beings. Often, when you see its true form, it indicates you've already entered its domain. And facing the outcome of entering a true God's domain, someone like you who has faced the Goddess of Wealth should understand. Without a power of equal or higher rank to resist, there's absolutely no ability to fight back, so regardless of its strength, it's much more difficult to deal with than the Goddess of Wealth. For a physical god like the Goddess of Wealth, Olivia could handle 3 or 5 at once without issue. But once the King of Nightmares descends, it can weave through countless human nightmares continuously, and even if Olivia risks entering the dream, she wouldn't catch up to it. Not even the director can handle it? After hearing the senior's explanation, Leon couldn't help but frown slightly, understanding why the cleaners at the Virgo substation looked like they were facing a formidable enemy. Although not always reliable, the red-haired director's exceptionally strong ability has always been the biggest backbone of the Virgo substation. Even if a mission truly fails, resulting in an unexpected true god descending, the director could still clean up the mess. But this time their opponent is of the type the director is not good at handling. If any mishap really allows the King of Nightmares to successfully descend, everyone will likely have to fend for themselves in the end. Chapter 439. Mission Assignment. Have you understood the situation? Glancing at Ryan and Emma holding hands, and waiting until he let go, the red-haired director curled his knuckles and knocked twice on the intelligence board beside him. According to the information from the Watcher's Palace, the Bai Yi sect will deploy over 700 followers. Starting tomorrow, they will set up a total of 35 strongholds one after another. 5 days later, when the overlap point between the demonic soul abyss and the kingdom aligns, these 35 strongholds will hold rituals simultaneously, providing coordinates for the King of Nightmares, allowing it to squeeze into reality with the demonic soul abyss. And our task is to clear all these 35 strongholds before then, or at least clear 33 of them. As long as we leave fewer than 2 strongholds, the King of Nightmares won't be able to fully enter reality. After stating the mission objectives, the red-haired director lifted the intelligence board again, pointed to the dozen or so maps pinned on it, and said seriously, the locations marked with red crosses on these maps are where the headquarters, in accordance with the Watcher's Palace's information, has pre-marked as stronghold locations. These include 12 counties in the kingdom, 2 across county mountain ranges, and the sea to the east. I've just requested support, and the 9 strongholds in Merino County, Welsh County, and Pov County will be dealt with by the Lion Subbureau. The 6 strongholds in the Eastern Sea area and the Hesperito Volcano Cluster will be taken over by the Aquarius Subbureau. We only need to handle the remaining 20 strongholds, so let's assign the tasks. 20 strongholds, huh? Looking around the meeting room apart from himself, Leon quickly calculated. 3 times 7 is 21, so if the director stays at the capital as expected, each of us, including myself, will likely need to address 3 strongholds. Considering that among the cleaners present, only I am a level 3 cleaner while others are level 2 or even level 1, I might be assigned 1 less or perhaps only 1 stronghold. Emma, the 7 strongholds in Ryan County and Coast County are yours. If time is tight, you can be more ruthless. Okay. Huh? Just like that, 7 tasks are gone. In Leon's slightly surprised gaze, the map with the most red crosses was removed by a strand of red hair and placed on Emma's table. Emma nodded unsurprisingly, frowning as she examined the times and locations marked on the map. Next is Tom. You're responsible for the 4 strongholds in the Skeetern Mountain Range. Be mindful of your actions when you work. The snow hasn't melted there yet, so don't cause an avalanche. I'll try. Not just try, you must. Giving Tom a stern warning glance, the red-haired director continued assigning tasks. Next is Peony. You're headed to Pav County and Belray County. Amin, this one for Belray County is yours. Be mindful. No unauthorized drug used this time. Harry, these are yours. Spike and you, if you're overwhelmed, you can summon the stationed army. But remember to report afterward. Wait, aren't all the tasks assigned already? When the last 2 maps were bound together and handed to the burly colleague opposite, Leon stood up in disbelief and asked, Director, what about me? What do I do? You stay behind to guard the house. Seeing Leon's somewhat speechless expression, the red-haired director pointed towards the palace, calmly explaining, The King of Nightmares has a grudge with the royal ancestors, and there's a possibility it might seize this opportunity to attack royal members. So we must be on guard. Your unique identity makes you ideal for moving in and out of the palace without issue, and you are familiar with the princess and prince, making you perfect for this role. If I'm caught up by any unforeseen events, you'll be responsible for protecting the royal family. If there's any trouble, remember to seek help from headquarters. Unforeseen events? Though the red-haired director didn't say it outright, after exchanging glances, Leon immediately understood her implication, realizing she was concerned about that female reporter from the Gemini Subbureau. After pocketing the director's wallet, the reporter named Nicole hadn't been seen since, but she was indeed a genuine level 1 cleaner with a tail capable of camouflaging her presence, making her a potential threat. So the talk about protecting the royal family was probably an excuse. The real reason the director wanted me in the palace was likely to keep me close to the royal families. Syllabic Steel. If any trouble occurs on her end, I can immediately contact the headquarters for assistance through royal channels. Got it. Nodding knowingly, Leon sat back, feeling reassured about his assigned task, while the red-haired director, having completed the task assignments, clapped her hands firmly and concluded crisply. If there's nothing else to add, let's set off now. Additionally, considering the involvement of 2 other subbureaus this time, and the uncertainty of how far they'll go or if they'll make mistakes, it's best for us to take down all 20 strongholds for which we're responsible with no room for error. The next night, the palace. Having had a busy day, hosting 6 or 7 batches of guests with patience, Prince Joshua had just fallen asleep when a knock sounded from outside the bedroom door. Knock, knock, knock. After a long, exhausting day, Prince Freckles was in a deep sleep, but after a while without any response, the knocking against the wooden panel suddenly intensified, becoming more rapid, forcibly dragging him from his dreams. Knock, knock, knock. Oh? Who dares knock on my door like this? Are they seeking death? Awakened forcefully by the persistent knocking, Prince Freckles got up angrily, rushed off his soft bed, and yanked open the bedroom door. Damn it! Today, I swear, it's you. Seeing the visitor's face, Joshua, who was about to start cursing, went pale, promptly shut his mouth, instinctively stepping back, but feeling he seemed cowardly. He braced up and stepped forward, sternly reprimanding. Who let you in here? Get out of my... Go. You! Get out! Move aside, thank you. Glancing sideways at the intimidated Joshua, Leon, hugging a pillow and a thin blanket, directly pushed past the obstructing Prince Freckles and entered the room, placing the pillow against an armrest. Don't you understand human language? Feeling ignored, Joshua gave a fierce glare and rushed over to try and kick the sofa and the man on it over, but after being stared down narrowly by Leon, he ultimately lowered his foot, his cheeks twitching as he angrily retorted, "Get out! This is my room. Don't push your luck, or else I'm here to protect you." Cutting him off, the weary Leon yawned, lay down on the sofa, and unenthusiastically informed him, "There have been incidents recently and you might be in danger, so the Bureau assigned me to protect royal family members. But I'm only one person and can't protect everyone. So I thought I'd guard your father, mother, and sister during the day when I'm awake, and come here at night when I'm tired to protect you. This way I'm being responsible. Well, if you have no objections, let's stick with this plan. I'm going to sleep first." Chapter 440. Night and Lights. During the day you're protecting my dad, my mom, and my sister, and at night when you're sleepy you come to protect me? Sounds like no big deal, but if you're so sleepy that you fall asleep, then who's really protecting whom here? After hearing Leon's words, Prince Freckles was stunned for a full 10 seconds before he barely managed to straighten out the logic and couldn't help but shout angrily, "Damn bastard! I'm going to the cleanup bureau to complain about you." Ma'am. Having spent the entire day running around with the princess, Leon was too exhausted to bother with him. He closed his eyes drowsily and responded quite perfunctorily, "Go ahead, complain, but the main office over there is quite busy lately, so it might take a while to process it, or they might just send the complaint back for our branch to handle on our own. Conveniently, our director is also busy lately, so I'll probably still be the one to solve your problem. If you can accept that, then feel free to complain. I'll take it all. If I complain about you, and my complaint ends up being handled by you, then what's the point of complaining at all?" Angered to the point of turning pale by Leon's response, Prince Freckles instinctively wanted to make a move, but realized that the bastard in front of him was unlike anyone he'd dealt with in the past. Provoke him too much and he was truly bold enough to slap him hard. This isn't fair. Recalling those few instances of getting beaten up in the past, Joshua barely suppressed his internal anger, stomped his feet twice furiously, and said, "I'm the prince. Why is it that you protect Veronica when you're awake and only come to protect me when you're too tired to stand? What if there's danger at night? What if something happens to me?" Suddenly trying to be reasonable, Leon opened his eyes in surprise, looked at the reasoning Prince Freckles before him, and pondered for a moment before speaking with a somewhat peculiar expression. "Sure, if you want to switch, that's fine, but I'm offering personal protection. Aren't you and your uncle, the Treasury Minister, trying actively to contact the old nobility and having repeated dealings with the lower house, trying to get them to cooperate with you in overthrowing the princess? Aren't you worried I'll spill the beans if I follow you during the day? Thinking about it like that, it doesn't seem quite right. Wait a minute. How do you know who I'm dealing with? Saw it on your sister's desk. Besides, you didn't seriously consider this a secret, did you?" Looking at the astonished Prince Freckles before him, Leon sneered and said, "The old nobility were never on the same page, and the lower house is a place where rumors fly like a sieve. It's impossible to keep anything secret there. Your attempts to court their support were already in the papers last Wednesday. To be honest, you're really green." Leon couldn't help but shake his head slightly at the speechless Joshua in front of him, whom he had just ridiculed. Although aligning with the old nobility and currying favor with the lower house is a transparent plot, as long as the princess tries to cut into the profits of the old nobility and the big merchants, there's nothing to stop you from aligning, and it's not afraid of being known. But something that was supposed to be kept as low-key as possible, you guys managed to make it a big buzz. It's truly astounding, and even when making house calls, you don't even bother to change to a different carriage. Who can't see through that? With your level of skill, you would need a miracle to defeat the princess. Any other questions? Too tired to deal with Joshua, whose face was alternating between blue and red, Leon, having worked as a personal guard for the whole day and almost being kept by the princess to stay overnight, yawned widely again. "If not, let's sleep. Your sister is getting up around 5 tomorrow to compete with the Treasury Minister over the new tax secretary candidate, and I plan to take a look. Wait! Seeing Leon pulling up the thin blanket, seemingly ready to end the conversation, Prince Freckles couldn't help but stomp his foot again, angrily stopping him. Get out of here. I don't need your protection. What gives you the right to sleep here? Get up. Go to the servants' room outside. Or else I'll. Have I been too polite to you? Seeing that after all this explanation, Joshua still wanted to pick a fight, Leon, who was feeling the pressure of work lately, sat up and rolled up his right sleeve, squinting as he said, I'll give you 2 options. The first one, you go back to sleep now and sleep until tomorrow morning. The second one, I put some effort into beating you up and you'll remain unconscious until tomorrow morning. Pick your choice. Here we go again. Realizing that Leon seemed ready to use force, Prince Freckles quickly stepped back half a step, then stiffened his neck to argue. You're violent. You're barbaric. Resorting to force is the worst choice. The true ruler should. The true ruler is the one with the bigger fist. Raising his right hand clenched into a palm, which frightened Joshua into retreating another half a step, Leon lay back down. Moreover, the effective choice is the right choice, so why care if you think I'm barbaric? Just hurry up and go to sleep. Just you wait. Prince Freckles stood in front of the couch panting, and considering the vast difference in strength between the two, in the end, he didn't dare to lay a hand on him. And when Leon had already closed his eyes, his breathing gradually lengthening as he was about to fall asleep, Prince Freckles could only snort angrily, then stomp heavily on the carpet, walking step by step back to his bed. Let you sleep. I'll shake you awake. Besides, you can only be so arrogant for a few more days. Once I overthrow Veronica and replace my father as the new king, I'm definitely going to put up a sign at the palace gates that says, Leon and dogs are not allowed, and then issue a decree that anyone who assaults the king without just cause will be hanged. In a fit of frustration over failing to kick someone out, Joshua leaped onto his bed with a thud, then started shaking the covers vigorously, creating a series of rustling noises. After fussing for a while and hearing the sound of Leon tossing and turning in dissatisfaction from the other side, ensuring that he managed to get back at him, Joshua, compelled by drowsiness, finally drifted into sleep with a touch of satisfaction. That's about enough. Shortly after Prince Freckles closed his eyes, a somewhat aged voice rang out from a bell tower located roughly 3 streets west of the palace. Looking at the capital city shrouded in tranquil darkness, the old investigator sitting meditatively on the roof of the tower spoke serenely. Apart from the Scarlet Hair Lady and that Leon, everyone from the Virgo branch has left the capital, and those 2 have also fallen asleep. Nicole, it's time for you to act. All right? With a slightly hesitant reply, a gentle light shone behind the old investigator. The female reporter who had disappeared after stealing a wallet emerged, holding a small lantern that emitted a warm glow. After casting a hesitant glance at the old investigator, the female reporter tightened her lips and gently shook the lantern in her hand. Immediately, the capital, largely hidden in darkness, flickered slightly with the lantern's flame, then blazed with light as a radiant sun replaced the moon, suspended high in the sky at its center.